The wheelchair hit the curb hard enough to jar her teeth. Victoria Hale watched her fiancé's taillights disappear into the snow, his last words still ringing in her ears. I didn't sign up to push a cripple around for the rest of my life. Behind her, the iron gates of her father's estate had already locked shut. 30 years old, paralyzed, and now homeless on the coldest night of the year. Her phone buzzed once, a text from her father's assistant. Your belongings will be donated. Do not contact this family again. She didn't cry. She'd stopped crying 2 years ago when the accident stole her legs and showed her exactly how conditional love really was. If you want to see how a woman who lost everything finds what actually matters, stay until the end. And drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The bus stop bench was covered in ice. Victoria stared at it for a long moment, then looked down at her legs. Dead weight? Useless. The irony wasn't lost on her. She couldn't even sit down properly without help, and there was no one left to help her. The street was empty. Most of the city had shuttered itself against the storm hours ago. Smart people were home with their families, drinking hot chocolate, complaining about relatives. Normal people problems. Victoria would have killed for normal people problems. She tried to maneuver her wheelchair closer to the bench, thinking maybe she could transfer herself somehow, but her hands were already numb inside her thin gloves. Designer gloves. Cashmere lined. Totally useless against actual cold because they'd been designed for the 30-second walk from a heated car to a heated building. She'd never needed real gloves before. Turned out there were a lot of things she'd never needed before. Her teeth started chattering. She clenched her jaw against it, then gave up. What was the point? There was no one here to see her fall apart, no shareholders to impress, no board members judging her composure, no father watching for weakness. The freedom of having absolutely nothing left to lose was almost funny. You're going to freeze to death out here. Victoria's head snapped up. She hadn't heard anyone approach. A man stood a few feet away, hands shoved in the pockets of a worn canvas jacket. Older than her, maybe early 30s. Dark hair dusted with snow. The kind of face that had seen some things but hadn't gone hard from it. I'm fine, Victoria said automatically. You're shaking so hard I can hear your teeth from here. I said I'm fine. He studied her for a moment and Victoria felt something unfamiliar crawl up her spine. Not pity, exactly. Pity she knew. Pity came with a certain look, a careful distance, like disability might be contagious. This was different. He was looking at her like she was a person making a stupid decision, not a tragedy to feel sorry for. Okay, he said finally, then I'll just wait here until you're not fine. Excuse me? It's a free country, public bus stop. He leaned against the shelter's metal frame. I've got time. Victoria stared at him. You're going to stand there and watch me freeze? Nope. I'm going to stand here until you admit you need help, and then I'm going to help you. I don't need... Yeah, you said that already. He pulled out a thermos from somewhere inside his jacket. Want some coffee while you work on your pride? The smell of it hit her like a physical thing, rich and dark and warm. Her stomach twisted. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. Breakfast, maybe. Yesterday's breakfast. I don't take charity, she said. Good thing I'm not offering any. I made too much coffee and I hate waste. He poured some into the thermos cap, steam rising into the frozen air. You'd actually be doing me a favor. Victoria wanted to tell him to go to hell, wanted to maintain some shred of dignity, but her hands were so cold they'd stopped hurting, which she was pretty sure was a bad sign, and the smell of that coffee was breaking something inside her chest. Fine, she said. 1 cup. He crossed the distance between them and handed her the cap. Their fingers brushed. His were warm. She'd forgotten what warm felt like. The coffee burned all the way down. It was perfect. I'm Ryan, he said. Victoria. Nice to meet you, Victoria. He said it like they were at a cocktail party instead of a frozen bus stop in the middle of nowhere. So what's your plan exactly? My plan? For tonight. You waiting for someone? Victoria laughed. It came out sharp and brittle. No, definitely not waiting for anyone. Ryan nodded slowly. Bus doesn't run this route after 9. Not enough ridership. I know. So you're just going to sit here? I'm working on it. How's that working out? Fuck off, Victoria said. She was too cold and too tired and too done to maintain the polished veneer. To her surprise, Ryan smiled. There it is. There what is? Some actual honesty. He screwed the lid back on his thermos. Look, I don't know your situation and I'm not asking, but I've got a spare room and it's warm and it's empty. You can have it for the night. No strings. No questions. I don't know you. True, but I'm the guy offering you a warm place to sleep, and you're the woman who's about to lose fingers to frostbite, so maybe the usual rules don't apply right now. Victoria's first instinct was to refuse. Every survival instinct she'd developed in 30 years of cutthroat business screamed that this was a trap. Men didn't help women for free. Everyone wanted something. But then she looked at him again, really looked. The worn jacket, the thermos that had clearly been used 1,000 times. The truck parked at the curb, old, paint faded, a car seat visible in the back. And his eyes, tired eyes, sad eyes, the eyes of someone who knew what rock bottom looked like. Why? She asked. Why what? Why help me? Ryan was quiet for a moment. Someone helped me once, when I needed it. Figured I should pass it on. It wasn't a good reason. It wasn't logical. But Victoria was so far past logic she could barely remember what it looked like. Okay, she heard herself say. Okay. And Ryan's truck smelled like French fries and children's shampoo. The heat was on full blast and Victoria's fingers burned as feeling came back into them. She bit her lip against the pain. Sorry about the mess, Ryan said, tossing fast food wrappers into the back. My daughter's 6. She hasn't mastered the concept of trash cans yet. You have a daughter. Yeah, Lucy. He pulled the truck into traffic, what little there was. She's at her grandma's tonight. Sleepover. Something in Victoria's chest eased slightly. A child in the house made this feel less dangerous somehow, made Ryan feel more real. How old? She asked. 6, going on 16 according to her grandma. He glanced at her. You warm enough? Getting there. They drove in silence for a while. Victoria watched the city slide past outside the window. Streets she'd driven down 1,000 times looked different from this angle. Smaller, more human. You can change your mind, Ryan said quietly. I can take you to a hotel, or a shelter, or wherever you want to go. I don't have anywhere to go. The words came out before she could stop them, raw and true and humiliating. Ryan didn't react, just nodded. Okay then, spare room it is. Why aren't you asking questions? Would you want to answer them? No. Then why would I ask? Victoria had no response to that. In her world, people asked questions constantly. Where do you work? Who's your family? What are you worth? The idea that someone might just accept her presence without an interrogation felt alien. The truck turned into a neighborhood that Victoria vaguely recognized as middle class. Small houses, chain-link fences, cars that were more than 5 years old, the kind of neighborhood where people knew their neighbors' names. Ryan pulled into a driveway in front of a small 2-story house with blue shutters and a sagging porch. Home sweet home. He came around to her side and opened the door, then hesitated. Can I help, or do you want to do it yourself? Most people just grabbed, assumed, treated her like a thing to be moved. I can manage the transfer, but I'll need the chair. He pulled the wheelchair from the truck bed, her custom chair that cost more than most people's cars, and positioned it carefully. Victoria transferred herself, grateful that she'd maintained her upper body strength even when everything else went to hell. The ramp was a surprise, wooden, a little rough around the edges, but functional. It led up to the front porch. My mom had a stroke a few years back, Ryan said, seeing her expression. Built it for her. She passed last year, but I kept it. Figured someone might need it someday. He unlocked the door and gestured her inside. The house was small but clean, lived in. There were drawings taped to the refrigerator, pictures of stick figures with big smiles, dishes drying in a rack by the sink, a coffee mug with "World's Okayest Dad" printed on it. It looked like a home. Victoria tried to remember the last time her father's estate had looked like a home. Came up empty. Spare room's this way, Ryan said, leading her down a short hallway. Bathroom's accessible. Another leftover from my mom. Towels are in the cabinet. You hungry? Victoria's stomach answered before she could. Ryan smiled. I'll make something. Nothing fancy. Grilled cheese, okay? I haven't had grilled cheese in 15 years. Then you're overdue. He left her alone in the spare room. It was small and simple. A bed with a worn quilt. A dresser. A window that looked out over a backyard buried in snow. The room her family kept for guests had marble floors and cost more to furnish than this entire house. Victoria transferred to the bed and just sat there for a minute. The quiet was overwhelming. No staff moving through distant halls, no business calls, no one expecting anything from her. She heard Ryan moving around in the kitchen, heard the sizzle of butter in a pan, smelled bread toasting. When was the last time someone had cooked for her? She couldn't remember. The grilled cheese was perfect, golden brown, cheese melted just right. Ryan had cut it into triangles, which seemed unnecessarily thoughtful. They ate at a small kitchen table. Ryan didn't make conversation, didn't fill the silence with questions or small talk, just ate his sandwich and let her eat hers. Victoria finished the whole thing, then stared at the empty plate in surprise. Want another one? Ryan asked. No, thank you, that was good. My specialty, that and scrambled eggs. Lucy says my cooking peaks at breakfast and goes downhill from there. Smart kid. Too smart. She's going to figure out I'm winging this whole parenting thing any day now. Victoria found herself almost smiling. How long have you been on your own with her? 4 years? Since my wife died? The words were simple, factual, but Victoria heard the weight behind them. I'm sorry, she said. Yeah, me too. Ryan gathered their plates. You want to talk about your day or leave it alone? Leave it alone. Works for me. He washed the dishes by hand. Victoria watched him, watched how carefully he dried each plate, how he put things away in a specific order, how he wiped down the counter twice. Control, she recognized, the kind you needed when life had knocked you sideways and you were barely holding on. She knew that instinct, had lived it for 2 years. The room's yours as long as you need it, Ryan said, not looking at her. No time limit, no expectations. You want to leave tomorrow, that's fine. You want to stay a while, that's fine too. Why would you do that? Because I've been where you are. Not the same way, maybe, but I've been at the bottom. And I know what it means when someone gives you a soft place to land. Victoria felt something crack open in her chest, something that had been locked down tight for so long she'd forgotten it existed. I was engaged, she heard herself say. Until about 3 hours ago. Ryan turned to look at her. Didn't speak, just listened. He left me at the bus stop, said he couldn't handle... She gestured at the wheelchair. That it wasn't what he signed up for. He's an idiot. My father agreed with him, told me I was an embarrassment to the family name, that I'd become a liability. Your father's an idiot too. Victoria laughed. It came out wet. She realized she was crying. I built his company. I made him billions. And the second I became less than perfect, I was trash. You're not trash. You don't know me. I know you're not trash. Trash doesn't fight this hard. She wiped at her eyes angrily. I'm not fighting. I'm just sitting here falling apart in a stranger's kitchen. That's fighting. You think it's easy to keep breathing when everything goes to hell? That takes strength. Victoria looked at him, really looked, saw the exhaustion in his face, the kind that went bone deep. What happened to your wife? Ryan was quiet for a long time. Complications during surgery. She went in for something routine and didn't come out. Were you there? I was supposed to be. I was working. By the time I got there, she was already gone. That must have been... Yeah. Ryan's voice went flat. It was. They sat in silence. 2 broken people in a warm kitchen while the snow piled up outside. I was a surgeon, Ryan said eventually. Before. Trauma surgeon. Good at it too. But after Sarah died, I couldn't go back. Couldn't walk into an OR without seeing her on the table. So you quit. So I quit. Walked away from everything. Moved here. Started doing construction work. Whatever paid the bills. He smiled without humor. Turns out medical degrees don't mean much when you refuse to practice medicine. Do you miss it? Every day. But I miss my wife more, and I can't have both, so... He shrugged. You do what you have to do. Victoria understood that. Understood it in her bones. I was a CEO. Vice President of Hale Technologies. I ran the medical division. We were developing surgical robotics, next generation stuff. Were? Until the accident, car crash, drunk driver, broke my back in 3 places. They said I'd never walk again. She touched the wheelchair's armrest. They were right. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't fix spinal cords. No, Ryan agreed. It doesn't. Another silence. This one felt different. Less awkward. More like understanding. The company's failing now, Victoria said. My father merged it with my fiance's family business to save it. That's why we were engaged. Strategic alliance. Love had nothing to do with it. Did you love him? I thought I did. Turned out I just loved not being alone. She laughed bitterly. Joke's on me. I'm alone anyway. You're not alone right now. Victoria looked up. Ryan was watching her with those sad, steady eyes. No, she said softly. I guess I'm not. That night, Victoria lay awake in the spare room and listened to the house settle around her. The heat kicking on, the wind rattling windows, the creak of old wood. Normal sounds. House sounds. Nothing like the cathedral silence of her father's estate. She'd expected to feel afraid. Strange house and strange man. Vulnerable position. But she didn't feel afraid. She felt something she couldn't quite name, something close to safe. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She'd been ignoring it all evening, but curiosity finally won. 17 missed calls from her father's office. 3 from her former fiancé. 28 emails. She opened one at random. It was from her father's lawyer. Miss Hale, pursuant to our earlier conversation, please be advised that all assets held in your name have been transferred to corporate holdings. Your access to company resources has been revoked. Security has been instructed not to admit you to any Hale properties. Please arrange to collect your personal effects by appointment only. Victoria read it twice, then deleted it. There was nothing left to collect. No personal effects worth having. Everything that mattered had already been taken. She set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. 2 years ago, she'd had everything. Power, prestige, a future so bright it hurt to look at. One accident had taken her legs. Tonight had taken everything else. She should feel devastated, should feel like her life was over. Instead, she felt strangely light. Maybe it was easier to move forward when you had nothing left to lose. Victoria woke to the smell of coffee and voices. Child voices. High and excited and very, very loud. She transferred to her wheelchair and made her way to the kitchen, following the sound. A little girl sat at the table, talking a mile a minute, while Ryan tried unsuccessfully to get her to eat actual breakfast, instead of just the marshmallows from her cereal. But the marshmallows are the best part, the girl was arguing. The whole thing is the best part. That's why they put it all together. That's not true. The boring pieces are just there to make it look healthy. Ryan saw Victoria in the doorway and smiled. Morning, meet Lucy, the marshmallow philosopher. Lucy turned around and Victoria found herself looking at a 6-year-old with her father's dark hair and the kind of smile that lit up a room. Hi, Lucy said. Are you Dad's new friend? I guess I am. Cool, do you like pancakes? Yes. Good. Because Dad makes really good pancakes, but only when we have company because otherwise he says it's too much work. She stage whispered, but I think he just likes showing off. Ryan pointed his spatula at her. I heard that. You were supposed to hear it. That's why I said it out loud. Victoria watched them. The easy back and forth. The genuine affection under the bickering. Something in her chest hurt. You want coffee? Ryan asked. Fair warning, Lucy's already had half a cup and she's bouncing off walls. I'm not bouncing, I'm energetic. There's a difference. Uh-huh. Victoria accepted the coffee. It was strong and good and exactly what she needed. Lucy watched her with open curiosity. Why are you in a wheelchair? She asked. Lucy, Ryan said sharply. What? You said I should ask questions instead of assuming. There are questions, and then there are... It's okay, Victoria said. She looked at Lucy. I was in an accident. My back got hurt, so I can't walk. Does it hurt now? Sometimes. That sucks. Lucy. Well, it does. You said I should be honest. Ryan looked at Victoria apologetically. I'm raising a tiny sociopath. But Victoria was smiling, actually smiling. No, she's right. It does suck. Lucy grinned. See? She gets it. They ate pancakes while Lucy chattered about school and her friends and a boy named Marcus who kept pulling her hair. Ryan listened with the patience of someone who'd heard the story 17 times already, but knew better than to say so. Victoria ate and watched and felt something warm settle in her stomach, something that had nothing to do with the food. This was a family. Not perfect, not polished, but real. She'd never had real before. After breakfast, Lucy announced she had homework and disappeared into her room. Ryan started clearing the dishes. I should go, Victoria said. Where? I don't know, hotel maybe? Figure something out. You got money for a hotel? Victoria opened her mouth, closed it. Her credit cards were all tied to her father's accounts. Her bank account had probably been frozen by now. She had maybe $40 in cash. That's what I thought, Ryan said gently. Stay. At least until you figure out your next move. I can't just live here. Why not? Because I'm a stranger. Because you don't know me. Because you think you're supposed to have your shit together and asking for help is weakness? Ryan dried his hands on a towel. Yeah, I've been there. Didn't work out great for me either. Victoria wanted to argue, wanted to maintain some dignity, but she was so tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of pretending. Tired of being strong. What if I can't pay you back? She asked quietly. I'm not asking you to. Everyone wants something. Yeah, I want my spare room to be useful. I want my kid to see that we help people who need help. And I want to stop feeling like the universe only takes and never gives back. He met her eyes. That enough for you? Victoria felt tears threaten again. She was turning into a leaky faucet. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Accept help. Be weak. She gestured helplessly at herself. This. You're not weak. You're hurt. There's a difference. Everyone treats them the same. Everyone's an idiot then. Ryan sat down across from her. Look, I'm not going to pretend I understand what you're going through. I've never been where you are. But I know what it's like when people expect you to be something you can't be anymore. When they look at you and see failure instead of a person. How do you handle it? Badly. But I'm working on it. He smiled slightly. Having a kid helps. She doesn't care that I used to be somebody. She just cares that I make her pancakes and read her stories and show up. I miss that, Victoria said softly. Miss what? Being enough just by existing. Ryan's expression went soft. You are enough. You just haven't found the right people to see it yet. The days started to blur together. Victoria stayed in the spare room. She told herself it was temporary, just until she figured out her next move, just until she got her feet under her, metaphorically speaking. But somehow she never quite left. Ryan went to work during the day, construction jobs mostly, sometimes electrical work. Lucy went to school. Victoria stayed at the house and tried to figure out what the hell she was supposed to do with her life now. She called lawyers, found out her father had locked her out of everything. The company, the trust funds, even her own patents. Everything she'd built, he'd claimed as corporate property. She could fight it, take him to court, but that would take years and money she didn't have. So she stopped calling lawyers. Instead, she started doing small things around the house. Dishes, laundry, whatever she could manage from the wheelchair. It felt good to be useful, to contribute something. Ryan never asked her to help, never expected it. But he never stopped her either. Lucy took to following her around after school, chattering about her day. Victoria found herself actually listening, actually caring about the playground drama, and the math homework and the art project that was due Friday. Do you have kids? Lucy asked one afternoon. No. Why not? I was too busy working. That's dumb. Work's boring. Victoria laughed. Sometimes, yeah. You should get a job that's not boring. What kind of job should I get? Lucy thought hard about this. You could be a teacher. Teachers are cool. Or astronaut. But that's probably hard to do in a wheelchair. Or you could work with Dad. He says his boss is a jerk, and you seem nicer. Your dad talks about work? Sometimes. When he thinks I'm not listening, but I'm always listening. Lucy grinned. I'm sneaky. I can tell. That night, after Lucy was in bed, Victoria mentioned the conversation to Ryan. Sorry, he said. She's at that age where she's got opinions about everything. Don't apologize. She's wonderful. She is. Takes after her mother that way. Ryan stared into his coffee. Sarah would have liked you. You don't know that? Yeah, I do. She had a thing for underdogs, people fighting against bad odds. She would have been in your corner from day one. Victoria didn't know what to say to that. Tell me about her. So Ryan did. Talked about how they met in college, how Sarah had been studying to be a teacher and Ryan had been drowning in med school stress, how she'd made him laugh when he'd forgotten how. She wanted kids right away, Ryan said. I wanted to wait until I was established. We compromised, waited 5 years. His voice went rough. Then we had Lucy, and Sarah said our family was perfect, said she didn't need anything else. She sounds amazing. She was, and I was too busy being important to appreciate it. Ryan set his mug down hard. I missed her pregnancy because I was doing a fellowship in Chicago, missed Lucy's first steps because I was in surgery, missed birthdays and holidays and normal Tuesday nights because I was always working. You were building a career. I was being an idiot, and then Sarah died and suddenly all that career shit didn't matter anymore. But it was too late to get her back. Victoria understood. Understood the regret. The what-ifs. The crushing knowledge that you'd wasted time you couldn't get back. Is that why you quit? She asked. Part of it. The other part was I couldn't trust myself anymore. Couldn't trust my judgment. If I'd missed the signs with my own wife, how could I be responsible for other people's lives? He looked at her. Some breaks don't heal. No, they don't. They sat in silence, but it was comfortable now, familiar. Thank you, Victoria said quietly. For what? For letting me stay, for not asking questions, for just... She struggled to find the words. For treating me like a person instead of a problem. You are a person. A stubborn, prickly, complicated person, but still a person. Victoria smiled despite herself. I think that's the nicest thing anyone said to me in years. Then you've been hanging around the wrong people. Yeah, I'm starting to realize that. 3 weeks in, Victoria woke up to the sound of Lucy screaming. She was out of bed and in her chair before her brain fully processed what was happening. Muscle memory from 2 years of living in fear that something else would go wrong. She wheeled down the hallway fast, her heart hammering. Lucy's room. The door was open. Ryan was already there, sitting on the edge of her bed, holding her while she sobbed into his shoulder. Bad dream, he mouthed at Victoria over Lucy's head. Victoria started to back out, give them privacy, but Lucy saw her and reached out one small hand. Victoria, don't go. So she stayed. Wheeled closer to the bed and took Lucy's hand. It was tiny and hot and gripping hers so tight it hurt. I dreamed Mom came back, but then she left again, Lucy hiccuped. She said she didn't want to stay. Ryan's face went pale. Lucy, that's not... Your mom would never... But she did leave. She died and left us. That wasn't her choice, baby. She didn't want to go. Then why did she? Lucy's voice cracked. Why did she have to die? Victoria watched Ryan struggle with it. Watched him try to find words that would make sense to a 6-year-old when it didn't make sense to adults either. I don't know, he said finally. I wish I did, but I don't. That's not a good answer. I know, but it's the only one I have. Lucy cried harder. Ryan held her and rocked slightly, and Victoria saw the exhaustion in every line of his body. This wasn't the first nightmare. Probably wasn't the 10th. My mom used to tell me that people we love never really leave, Victoria said quietly. Both of them looked at her. She said they live in all the things they taught us, all the ways they changed us. Your mom died too? Lucy asked. When I was 16, cancer. Did you have bad dreams? All the time, still do sometimes. Lucy considered this. Does it get better? Victoria could have lied, could have told her the pain went away. But Lucy deserved better than that. It gets different, she said. The hurt doesn't go away exactly, but you get stronger at carrying it. Lucy looked at her dad. Is that true? Ryan's eyes were wet. Yeah, Bug. That's true. Lucy was quiet for a moment, then she shifted so she was leaning against both of them. One small body held up by two broken adults doing their best. "I'm glad you're here, Victoria," Lucy said softly. "You make Dad less sad." Victoria felt something crack in her chest. "You make me less sad, too." They stayed like that until Lucy fell back asleep. Then Ryan carefully tucked her in and they retreated to the hallway. He closed the door most of the way, leaving it cracked so they'd hear if she woke again. "Sorry," he said. "You didn't sign up for midnight crying sessions." "Neither did you, but here we are." Ryan leaned against the wall and scrubbed his hands over his face. "Some nights are harder than others. Holidays, her birthday, random Tuesdays for no reason at all." "How often does she have nightmares?" "Couple times a month. Used to be every night." He looked at Victoria. "She's right, though, about you making things less sad. I didn't realize how much we'd been just going through the motions until you showed up." "I'm not doing anything." "You're here. That's enough." They stood in the dark hallway, and Victoria realized she was still in her pajamas. Old ratty t-shirt and shorts that Ryan had found somewhere. Hair a mess. No makeup. Completely exposed. She should feel vulnerable, should feel uncomfortable. Instead, she just felt seen. "I should let you get back to sleep," Ryan said, but he didn't move. "I'm not really tired anymore." "Me neither. Want some tea or something?" "Sure." They ended up in the kitchen again. It was becoming their place, the spot where walls came down and truth spilled out. Ryan put the kettle on. Victoria watched him move around the small space with practiced ease. He'd lived here for years, had a routine, a life. She was just passing through. Except it didn't feel like passing through anymore. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said. "Sure." "Do you ever regret it, giving up medicine?" Ryan was quiet for a long time. "Every single day. But I regret not being there for Sarah more. So I guess it depends on which regret I can live with." "That's not really an answer." "No, it's not." He poured hot water over tea bags. "Truth is, I don't know if I made the right choice. I just know it's the only choice I could make and still look at myself in the mirror. I think I understand that." "Yeah?" "I spent my whole life building my father's company, sacrificed everything for it. Relationships, health, any chance at a normal life. And the second I couldn't perform, he threw me away like garbage." She wrapped her hands around the mug he handed her. "Part of me wants to fight back, take him to court, destroy him the way he destroyed me. But another part of me thinks maybe he did me a favor. Maybe I needed to lose everything to realize I was chasing the wrong things." Ryan sat down across from her. "What were you chasing?" "Approval, love, proof that I mattered." Victoria laughed bitterly. "Turns out you can't earn those things. Either people give them freely or they don't." Took me a while to learn that too. They drank their tea in silence. Outside, the wind picked up. February in the city was brutal, all the cold of winter with none of the charm. "I need to figure out what I'm going to do," Victoria said. "I can't just live in your spare room forever." "Why not?" "Because it's your space, your life. You're just what? A person who needs help? So what? Lucy and I needed help too after Sarah died. Still need it most days. That's not weakness. That's being human." "I don't know how to be human without being useful." Ryan looked at her steadily. "Then maybe it's time to learn." The next morning, Victoria started looking for work. It wasn't easy. Her resume was impressive but also damning. Former CEO of a major tech company. Why would she want an entry-level position? And she couldn't exactly explain that her father had blackballed her from every executive role in the industry. She applied anyway. Admin jobs, data entry, anything that didn't require standing for long periods. Most applications disappeared into the void. A few came back with polite rejections. One company called her in for an interview. Ryan drove her. Lucy insisted on coming along for moral support. "You're going to do great," Lucy said from the back seat. "Just smile and tell them you're really smart." "That's not exactly how interviews work," Victoria said. "Why not? You are really smart. Dad says so." Victoria glanced at Ryan. He kept his eyes on the road, but she saw the corner of his mouth twitch. "Your dad talks about me?" "All the time. He told Grandma you were the smartest person he'd ever met. Lucy, Ryan said, a warning in his tone. What? You did say that. I heard you. Victoria felt something warm bloom in her chest. Well, let's hope the interviewer agrees. The company was small. Software startup. The office was one of those open-plan nightmares with exposed brick and too many plants. Everyone looked about 23. The interviewer was maybe 25, probably fresh out of business school. She looked at Victoria's wheelchair and then at her resume, and something shifted in her expression. Victoria knew that look, had seen it 1,000 times, pity mixed with discomfort mixed with the desperate hope that this wouldn't be complicated. So, the interviewer said, you were VP at Hale Technologies. Yes. And now you're applying for an administrative assistant position. That's right. Can I ask why? Victoria had practiced this answer, had a whole speech prepared about wanting a change of pace, needing work-life balance, all the corporate buzzwords that meant nothing. But sitting there in that aggressively hip office, looking at this kid who probably made a quarter of what Victoria used to make in a year, she couldn't do it. I had a disagreement with the company's direction, she said simply. So I left. I see. The interviewer glanced at her notes. And the wheelchair, is that going to impact your ability to perform the job duties? Only if the job duties include running marathons. The interviewer didn't smile. We do require employees to be able to move quickly between different areas of the office, retrieving documents, attending meetings, that sort of thing. I can move quickly. Right, but the interviewer hesitated. We just want to make sure this is a good fit for everyone. Translation. We don't want to deal with accommodations or risk a discrimination lawsuit. Victoria felt something cold settle in her stomach. I understand. Thank you for your time. We'll be in touch. They wouldn't be. Ryan took one look at her face when she came out and didn't ask how it went, just opened the truck door and helped her in. Lucy was less tactful. Did you get the job? No, Bug, I didn't. Why not? You're really smart. Sometimes that doesn't matter. Lucy frowned. That's stupid. Yeah, Victoria agreed. It really is. They stopped for ice cream on the way home, even though it was freezing outside. Lucy got chocolate, Ryan got vanilla, Victoria got coffee. Ice cream makes everything better, Lucy declared. Does it, though? Victoria asked. Yep. Science fact? Ryan smiled. I don't think that's how science works. It's how my science works. They ate their ice cream in the truck with the heat blasting. Lucy chattered about nothing important. Ryan listened with the patience of a saint. Victoria stared out the window and tried not to feel like a complete failure. You know what I think? Lucy said suddenly. What's that? Victoria asked. I think you should work with Dad. Lucy, I don't think... Ryan started. No, listen. Dad's boss is mean. He yells at Dad all the time, and you're nice and smart, and you could be a way better boss. I'm not a contractor, Bug. I don't know anything about construction. So? You can learn. Dad learned, and he used to cut people open for a living. Ryan choked on his ice cream. That's not exactly how I'd describe surgery. But it's true. You learned a whole new job. Victoria can, too. There was a terrible logic to it. Victoria looked at Ryan. Does your boss really yell at you? He's demanding. That's a yes. Why do you put up with it? Because jobs aren't exactly falling from the sky for people who walked away from their careers. He met her eyes. Sound familiar? It did. Too familiar. What if we started our own company? Victoria heard herself say. Ryan stared at her. What? You have construction experience. I have business experience. Between us, we could probably figure it out. That's insane. Probably. But so is living in fear of your boss. So is applying for jobs you're overqualified for and still getting rejected. I don't have startup capital. Neither do I. But I have ideas and connections, even if my father tried to burn them all. Victoria felt something spark to life in her chest, something that had been dead for months. We could start small, residential repairs, accessibility modifications. There's a market for that. You've been here 5 minutes and you're already trying to start a business? I've been here 3 weeks, and yes, Because sitting around feeling sorry for myself isn't working out great. Lucy bounced in her seat. Can I help? I'm really good at coloring. What would coloring have to do with a construction company? Ryan asked. I don't know, but I want to be included. Victoria laughed. Actually laughed. It felt good. You can be in charge of marketing materials. How's that? Deal. Ryan shook his head, but he was smiling. You're both crazy. Maybe, but you haven't said no. That's because I'm still processing the idea. Process faster. We could start this week. Victoria, I'm serious. What do we have to lose? Ryan looked at her for a long moment. Then at Lucy, who was grinning like Christmas had come early. Then back at Victoria. Everything, he said quietly. We have everything to lose. No, we don't. Because we've already lost everything. This is just trying to build something new from the pieces. She saw the moment he considered it, really considered it, saw hope flicker across his face before caution smothered it. Let me think about it, he said. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. That night, after Lucy was asleep, Victoria spread out papers across the kitchen table. Business plans, market research, financial projections based on almost no data and a lot of optimism. Ryan came in around 11, saw what she was doing, and sighed. You're serious about this? Completely. She pushed a notebook toward him. Look at these numbers. There's a massive gap in the market for accessible home modifications. Most contractors don't know how to do it properly, and the ones who do charge a fortune. Because it's specialized work. Exactly. Which means we could undercut them and still make money, especially if we're not paying corporate overhead. Ryan sat down, picked up the notebook, actually read it. These projections are optimistic, he said. They're realistic. I've been running numbers for 20 years. I know how to build a business model. On paper, but actually running a company is what I did for a living. Ryan, I was good at this. Really good. Before everything went to hell, I was on track to take over as CEO within 2 years. And now? Now I'm sitting in your kitchen trying to convince you we can make this work. She leaned forward. I know I'm asking a lot. I know you have Lucy to think about, and bills to pay, and a million reasons this is a bad idea. But I also know you're miserable at your current job. And I know you're too good at what you do to be treated like garbage by some asshole who doesn't appreciate you. Ryan was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful. What happens when you get your life back together? When you reconcile with your father or find a better opportunity? You just walk away. The question hit harder than it should have. Is that what you think I do? I think you're used to a different world than this, and I think eventually you're going to want that world back. You're wrong. Am I? Because 3 weeks ago you were engaged to some rich asshole and running a billion-dollar company. Now you're here, but you didn't choose here. You ended up here because you had nowhere else to go. Victoria felt like she'd been slapped. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. Ryan stood up. I can't afford to take risks, Victoria. I've got a kid depending on me. I can't blow up my life on a maybe. This isn't a maybe. This is a solid business opportunity. With someone who might disappear the second something better comes along. He headed for the door, then stopped. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying I need to be sure you're in this for the right reasons, because I can't have Lucy getting attached to someone who's going to leave. He left before Victoria could respond. She sat there staring at the business plans scattered across the table. Her coffee had gone cold. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. Ryan was right. She hadn't chosen this life. She'd fallen into it, and maybe part of her was still waiting for her real life to start again. For the fairy tale ending where her father apologized and everything went back to normal. But normal had never been good. Normal had been cold and transactional and completely devoid of actual human connection. This, though, this messy, complicated, terrifying situation, this felt real. She just had to figure out how to prove it. The next morning was Saturday. Lucy had a soccer game. Victoria offered to stay home, give them space, but Lucy wouldn't hear of it. You have to come. I'm the goalie, and I'm really good. She's terrible, Ryan Stage whispered. But we don't tell her that. I heard that. So Victoria went to the soccer game, sat on the sidelines in her wheelchair wrapped in a blanket, while 6-year-olds ran around chasing a ball with more enthusiasm than skill. Lucy was, in fact, terrible at goalie, but she had fun, which seemed to be the point. The other parents were friendly in that superficial way people had. Lots of smiles and small talk that didn't mean anything. Victoria caught a few of them staring at the wheelchair when they thought she wasn't looking. One woman was braver than the rest. She walked over during halftime. "Hi, I'm Jennifer. My daughter's on Lucy's team." "Victoria, I haven't seen you before. Are you Ryan's sister?" There was curiosity in the question, maybe a little hope. Victoria had seen that look before too. Single mothers sizing up single fathers, looking for openings. "No, I'm staying with them for a while." "Oh, are you two?" Jennifer made a vague gesture. "No, but you're living together?" Victoria felt her defenses go up. "I'm renting a room. Is that a problem?" No, of course not. I was just curious." Jennifer smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "It's just unusual. Ryan's been on his own for so long. We all kind of figured he'd stay that way." "Things change." "They certainly do." Jennifer glanced at the wheelchair. "If you don't mind me asking, what happened?" "Car accident." "How awful. You must have been devastated." "I got through it." "Well, you're very brave. I don't know what I'd do if something like that happened to me." It was the exact wrong thing to say. Victoria had heard variations of it 100 times. The implication that disability was a fate worse than death, that she was somehow heroic just for existing. "You'd probably figure it out," Victoria said flatly. "Most people do." Jennifer's smile faltered. "Of course, I didn't mean— I know what you meant." An awkward silence fell. Jennifer excused herself quickly. Victoria watched her go and tried to feel bad about being rude. Couldn't quite manage it. Ryan came over a few minutes later with coffee from the snack bar. "Saw you talking to Jennifer." "Yeah, she was delightful." "That bad?" "She called me brave." Ryan winced. The worst compliment. "Right? Like I'm supposed to be grateful that people think I'm courageous for getting out of bed in the morning. People don't know what to say. They mean well." "I know. Doesn't make it less annoying." Victoria took the coffee. She also asked if we were together. "And what did you say?" "That I'm renting a room." "Ah." Ryan sat down in the folding chair next to her. "For the record, I didn't tell anyone about your situation. I just said you needed a place to stay for a while." "I know, you're not the gossipy type." Victoria watched Lucy do a cartwheel on the field. The coach blew his whistle and gestured her back to the goal. "Do you care what people think?" "About?" "About me living with you, a woman you barely know. They're probably talking." Ryan shrugged. "Let them talk. My life stopped being their business when Sarah died, and they all disappeared." "They disappeared?" "Most of them. Couple people stuck around, brought casseroles, asked how we were doing, but the rest just sort of drifted away. Like grief is contagious." His voice was bitter. "Turns out friendships based on couples' dinners and playdates don't survive when half the couple is gone." Victoria understood that too. After her accident, most of her friends had vanished. Oh, they'd visited at first, brought flowers and sympathy, but once it became clear she wasn't going to recover and return to normal, they'd found reasons to be busy. "People are terrible," she said. Some of them. Some of them are okay." Ryan nodded toward the field where another parent was showing Lucy how to position her hands for a block. "That's Marcus's dad. He checks in every week, makes sure we're doing all right. Never makes it weird." "The bar is so low." "Tell me about it." They watched the game in comfortable silence. Lucy let in 3 more goals but didn't seem to care. She was having too much fun. "I meant what I said last night," Ryan said quietly, "about needing to be sure. This isn't just about me, it's about Lucy too." "I know." "She's already attached to you. If you leave, it's going to hurt her." "I'm not planning to leave." "But you can't promise you won't." Ryan looked at her. "And I can't blame you for that. This isn't your life. It's just where you ended up." Victoria wanted to argue, wanted to promise she'd stay forever, but she'd learned the hard way that promises didn't mean much. "You're right," she said instead. "I can't promise anything, but I can tell you that for the first time in 2 years, I don't feel like I'm just surviving. I feel like I'm actually living." She met his eyes. That has to count for something. Ryan held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Yeah, it does. Lucy's team lost 7-2. Lucy didn't care. She ran over to them after the game, grass-stained and sweaty and grinning. Did you see me block that one shot? I did. It was very impressive, Victoria said. I'm getting better. Coach says if I keep practicing, I might actually be good someday. Someday soon, Ryan said, ruffling her hair. They piled into the truck. Lucy chattered about the game. Ryan listened. Victoria felt something settle in her chest, something that felt dangerously close to belonging. Maybe Ryan was right to be cautious. Maybe she would leave eventually. Maybe this was all temporary. But for now, sitting in a truck that smelled like old French fries and children's shampoo, listening to a 6-year-old dissect every play of a soccer game where nobody kept score, Victoria couldn't imagine wanting to be anywhere else. Sunday morning, Victoria woke to her phone ringing. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Victoria Hale? A woman's voice. Professional? Clipped. Yes? This is Amanda Chen from Hale Technologies' legal department. I'm calling to inform you that your father would like to arrange a meeting. Victoria's heart kicked against her ribs. Why? He didn't share the details with me. He simply asked me to convey that the meeting is urgent and pertains to company business. I don't work for the company anymore. I'm aware. However, Mr. Hale was quite insistent that you attend. A pause. He's requested that the meeting take place tomorrow at 10 a.m. at his office. Tell him I'm busy. Miss Hale, I said I'm busy. Victoria hung up. Her hands were shaking. She stared at the phone like it might bite her. A knock on the door. Ryan's voice. Everything okay? I heard you talking. My father wants to meet. Silence. Then, what are you going to do? Ignore him. Are you sure that's smart? Victoria laughed harshly. Smart would have been not building his entire company for him. Smart would have been realizing he only valued me as an asset. I'm done being smart. Victoria Choi? No. He threw me away. He doesn't get to summon me back whenever it's convenient. She heard Ryan sigh through the door. Can I come in? Yeah? He opened the door but didn't come all the way inside, just leaned against the frame. You don't owe him anything, but you might want to hear what he has to say. Why? So he can offer me some pathetic apology and expect me to come running back? Maybe. Or maybe he's in trouble and needs your help. Not my problem. Isn't it, though? Ryan's voice was gentle. You spent your whole life building that company. All those employees, all those projects. You really want to let it all burn because you're angry? Yes, Victoria said. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. She did care. She cared about the research teams and the engineers and the administrative staff who'd done nothing wrong. She cared about the medical technology projects that could save lives if they succeeded. She just didn't want to care anymore. I hate this, she said. I know. He doesn't deserve my help. Probably not. But maybe you deserve to make that choice on your own terms instead of out of spite. Victoria looked at him. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just a guy who made a lot of bad choices and learned from them. Ryan smiled slightly. Go to the meeting, hear him out. Then tell him to go to hell if that's what you want. At least you'll know you made an informed decision. He was right. Victoria hated that he was right. Will you come with me? She asked. Ryan looked surprised. You want me there? I don't want to face him alone. Then I'll be there. You have work. I'll take the day off. Tell my boss it's a family emergency. He paused. Is that okay? Calling it a family thing? Victoria felt her throat tighten. Yeah, that's okay. What? Monday morning came too fast. Victoria dressed carefully. The only professional clothes she had were the ones she'd been wearing the night Ryan found her, cleaned and pressed. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Thinner, harder, more real somehow. Lucy wanted to come too, but Ryan put his foot down. School day, Bug. No exceptions. But this is important. Victoria needs moral support. Victoria has moral support. She has me. Lucy pouted, but eventually relented. She hugged Victoria tight before getting on the school bus. "Don't let them be mean to you," she whispered. "I won't." "Promise?" "Promise." The drive into the city was quiet. Ryan kept the radio off. Victoria stared out the window and watched her old life slide past. Hale Technologies' headquarters was a glass and steel monument to corporate excess. Victoria had walked through those doors 1,000 times. Now they felt alien. Security stopped her at the desk. "Can I help you?" Victoria Hale to see Edward Hale. The guard checked his computer, then did a double take when he looked up and saw her. "Miss Hale, I'll need to verify your appointment." "It's verified. Call upstairs if you don't believe me." He made the call, had a quiet conversation, looked increasingly uncomfortable, finally handed her a visitor badge. 20th floor. Mrs. Chen will meet you there." "I know where my father's office is." "Security protocol, ma'am." Victoria bit back a response. Ryan touched her arm gently. The elevator ride felt like it took forever. Ryan stood beside her, solid and steady. She was grateful for his presence in a way she couldn't articulate. Amanda Chen was waiting when the doors opened. Tall, polished, exactly the kind of corporate soldier Victoria used to respect. "Miss Hale, thank you for coming." Her eyes flicked to Ryan. "And you are?" "With her," Ryan said simply. Amanda looked like she wanted to argue, but thought better of it. "This way." Edward Hale's office took up half the 20th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows, custom furniture, art that cost more than most people made in a year. Her father stood by the window looking out over the city. He didn't turn when they entered. "You're late," he said. "You're lucky I came at all." Edward turned. He looked older than Victoria remembered, tired, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Who's this?" he asked, looking at Ryan. "A friend. I asked for a private meeting. And I asked for a lot of things you never gave me. Looks like we're both disappointed." Edward's jaw tightened. "Fine. Sit." "I'll stand." "Victoria, what do you want?" Her voice was ice. "You have 5 minutes." Edward's expression flickered. Anger, frustration, something else Victoria couldn't read. "The company is failing," he said bluntly. "The merger fell through. Stock prices are in freefall. We're hemorrhaging talent. If something doesn't change in the next quarter, we'll be bankrupt." Victoria felt a savage satisfaction. "Good. Good? 15,000 people will lose their jobs. Then maybe you should have thought of that before you threw away your best VP. You became a liability. I became disabled. There's a difference." Edward's face reddened. "This isn't about you. This is about the survival of everything we built." "Everything I built? You just took credit for it." "Damn it, Victoria, I'm trying to apologize." The words hung in the air. Victoria stared at her father. Ryan had gone very still beside her. "Say that again," Victoria said quietly. Edward looked away. "I made mistakes. I shouldn't have cut you out. You're my daughter, and I treated you like a balance sheet entry." "You treated me like garbage." "Yes." The word seemed to cost him, and I was wrong. Victoria waited for the satisfaction to come, the vindication, but all she felt was tired. "Why tell me this now?" she asked. "Because I need your help. The medical technology division is collapsing. The robotics project is failing. You're the only one who understands it well enough to save it." There it was. The real reason for the apology. "You don't actually care that you hurt me," Victoria said. "You just care that you need something from me." "That's not... It's exactly that. You didn't come looking for me when I was homeless. You didn't call to check if I was alive. You only care now because your company is failing." Edward opened his mouth, closed it. He had no defense because she was right. "I came to this meeting because part of me hoped you'd actually changed," Victoria said. "That maybe losing everything would make you realize what matters. But you're still the same man who valued profit over people, including his own daughter." "Victoria, please." "No, I'm done." She turned her wheelchair toward the door. "Good luck with your company. I hope it was worth it." "Wait." Edward's voice cracked. "Please, just wait." Victoria stopped. Against her better judgment, she stopped. You want to know why I really called you here? Edward said. It's not just the company. It's because I saw the news reports, saw that you'd disappeared, and I realized I didn't even know if you were safe, didn't know where you were living, or if you had food, or if you needed help. And that scared me more than bankruptcy ever could. Victoria felt something shift in her chest. You could have called me yourself. I didn't think you'd answer. I didn't think I deserved the chance. Edward moved closer. I was wrong about so many things. Wrong about your fiancé, wrong about the merger, wrong about what matters, and most of all, wrong about you. You don't know anything about me. I know you're brilliant. I know you're stronger than I ever gave you credit for, and I know that I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway. Ryan's hand found Victoria's shoulder, a quiet support. Victoria looked at her father, really looked, saw the desperation, the fear, the genuine regret. It would be so easy to walk away, to let him suffer the consequences of his choices. But she'd learned something in the past few weeks. Learned it from a man who gave her shelter without asking for anything, from a little girl who offered love without conditions. Forgiveness wasn't about what people deserved. It was about choosing not to carry the weight anymore. I'm not coming back, Victoria said. Not as your employee, not as your VP. That part of my life is over. Edward's face fell. But, Victoria continued, I'll consult, help you fix the robotics project, train someone to take it over properly, on 2 conditions. Anything. First, every employee who worked under me gets a retention bonus, paid immediately. And you reinstate the accessibility initiatives I proposed 3 years ago that you rejected as too expensive. Done. What's the second condition? Victoria looked at Ryan, saw the understanding in his eyes. You fund a startup, a company focused on accessible home modifications, full capital investment, no strings attached. Edward blinked. Why would I? Because it's the right thing to do. And because if you actually mean all this remorse, you'll prove it with action instead of words. Her father was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, I'll have legal draw up the papers. Good. Victoria started for the door again. I'll send you my consulting rates. They're not cheap. Victoria? Edward's voice stopped her one more time. Thank you for giving me another chance. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for the people who don't deserve to lose their jobs because you made bad choices. She left before he could respond. Ryan followed her to the elevator. Neither of them spoke until the doors closed. Then Victoria let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. You okay? Ryan asked. I don't know. Ask me later. That was pretty amazing. What you did in there. I blackmailed my father into funding our startup. Not sure that counts as amazing. You stood up for yourself, you set boundaries, and you helped a lot of people who had nothing to do with your fight. Ryan smiled. Yeah, I'd say that's amazing. The elevator reached the ground floor. They crossed the lobby, stepped out into the cold February air. Victoria breathed it in. For the first time in weeks, the future felt like something other than an endless series of obstacles. It felt like possibility. So, Ryan said as they reached the truck, we're really doing this? Starting a company? Unless you changed your mind. I didn't change my mind. I'm terrified, but I didn't change my mind. Good, because we have a lot of work to do. Ryan opened the truck door for her. Where do we even start? Victoria transferred into the seat and looked at him, at this man who'd given her shelter and kindness and a reason to keep fighting. We start by believing we can do it, she said. Everything else we'll figure out as we go. Ryan closed her door and walked around to the driver's side, started the engine, pulled out into traffic. And for the first time since the night he found her freezing at that bus stop, Victoria felt like she was heading somewhere instead of just running away. The road ahead was uncertain. There would be challenges, setbacks, moments when they'd question every choice, but they'd face it together. That made all the difference. Lucy was waiting on the porch when they got home, still in her school clothes, bouncing on her toes like she'd had too much sugar. Well, what happened? Did your dad apologize? Did you yell at him? Did Ryan punch him? I didn't punch anyone, Ryan said, getting Victoria's wheelchair from the truck bed. But you would have if he was mean, right? Lucy, inside! It's freezing. They gathered in the kitchen. Lucy climbed onto the counter even though she wasn't supposed to, watching them with huge eyes while Ryan made coffee and Victoria tried to process everything that had just happened. He apologized, Victoria said finally. Sort of. What does sort of mean? Lucy asked. It means he said he was sorry, but mostly because he needs something from me. That's not a real apology. That's a fake apology. Like when Marcus says sorry for pulling my hair, but he's really just sorry the teacher saw him. Victoria smiled despite herself. Exactly like that. So what did you say? I told him I'd help, but only if he helped us too. Lucy's eyes went wide. He's going to help with the business? You mean Dad? He's going to pay for it. There's a difference. Is that good? Victoria looked at Ryan. He was leaning against the counter, coffee mug in hand, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. I think so, she said, but I should have asked Ryan first before making promises about our company. Our company, Ryan repeated. That's going to take some getting used to. You can still say no. Walk away. I'd understand. And miss out on being business partners with someone who just blackmailed a billionaire? Not a chance. Lucy whooped. This is the best day ever. Can I tell everyone at school? Tell them what exactly? Ryan asked. That my dad's starting a company with Victoria and we're going to be rich and famous. We're probably going to be broke and stressed, but sure, tell whoever you want. Lucy hugged Victoria so hard she nearly fell out of her chair. I knew you'd fix everything. I didn't fix anything, Bug. I just made things more complicated. That's what fixing things looks like, Lucy said wisely. Mom used to say that all the time. Ryan's expression went soft. She did, didn't she? They ordered pizza for dinner because no one had the energy to cook. Lucy chattered about her day while they ate. Something about a boy who ate paste and a girl who could burp the alphabet. Normal kid stuff that felt impossibly precious. After Lucy went to bed, Ryan and Victoria stayed up late going over numbers. How much capital they'd need. What kind of licenses and insurance. Where to find clients. The logistics were overwhelming. We're going to need a real office, Ryan said. Can't run a construction company out of my kitchen. Why not? We've been running our lives out of your kitchen for weeks. That's different. This is a business. We need to look professional. Professional costs money. Money we don't have yet. Ryan rubbed his eyes. This is crazy. We're actually doing this. Having second thoughts? About 1,000 of them, but I'm doing it anyway. Victoria felt something warm settle in her chest. Why? Because you were right. I've been miserable at my job, and I'm tired of letting fear make my decisions. He looked at her. Plus, watching you face down your father today, I realized something. What's that? That courage isn't about not being scared. It's about being terrified and doing the thing anyway. I wasn't courageous. I was angry. Same energy, different direction. Ryan smiled. Besides, Lucy would never forgive me if I backed out now. She's already planning the company logo. She is? Drew 3 versions at dinner. They all have cats in them for some reason. Cats have nothing to do with construction. Try telling her that. They worked until past midnight. By the time Victoria made it to bed, her head was spinning with plans and possibilities, and the terrifying reality that she'd just committed to building something from nothing. But lying there in the dark, listening to the house breathe around her, she didn't feel scared. She felt alive. The next morning, reality hit hard. Victoria started reaching out to her old contacts. Most of them didn't return her calls. The ones who did were polite but distant. No one wanted to associate with someone who'd been cut off from Hale Technologies, even if Edward was funding their startup. It's like I've been blacklisted, Victoria told Ryan after the 5th rejection in a row. Give it time. Word will get out that you're consulting for your father again. That'll change things. Maybe. Or maybe I burned too many bridges. Ryan looked up from the permit applications he was filling out. You didn't burn anything? They did. And if they can't see what you're worth, that's their loss. Easy to say. Harder to believe. Then believe this. I've watched you work for the past month, the way you think through problems, the way you see solutions other people miss. You're brilliant, Victoria, with or without your father's name behind you. She wanted to dismiss it, wanted to point out all the ways she'd failed. But Ryan wasn't the type to say things he didn't mean. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Don't thank me. Just keep doing what you're doing." By the end of the week, they had their first lead. A woman named Patricia Gomez called about making her mother's house wheelchair accessible. "I saw your information on a contractor form," Patricia said. "Someone mentioned you specialized in accessibility modifications?" Victoria and Ryan exchanged glances across the kitchen table. They didn't have any information on any forms yet. Someone else must have posted about them. "That's right," Victoria said. "We do residential accessibility work." "What are you looking for?" Patricia explained. Her mother had MS, was losing mobility, needed ramps, wider doorways, a roll-in shower. The quotes she'd gotten from other contractors were astronomical. "Can you give me a ballpark figure?" Patricia asked. Victoria did quick math in her head. Materials plus labor plus their margin. 12,000, maybe less depending on what we find when we assess the site. Silence on the other end. Then, "The other companies quoted me 30. They're overcharging. The work's specialized, but it's not that complicated." "When can you come look at the house?" They scheduled an assessment for Saturday. After Victoria hung up, she and Ryan just stared at each other. "We have a client," Ryan said. We have a potential client. She might change her mind when she meets us." "Why would she do that?" "Because I'm in a wheelchair and you used to be a surgeon. We don't exactly screen professional contractors." "Then we'll just have to prove her wrong." Saturday morning, they drove to Patricia's mother's house. It was a small ranch-style place in a neighborhood that had seen better days. Patricia met them at the door. She was younger than Victoria expected, maybe late 20s, with tired eyes and paint under her fingernails. "Thank you for coming out," she said, shaking their hands. "Mom's in the living room. She's having a bad day, so she might not be very talkative." Mrs. Gomez sat in a wheelchair by the window. She was maybe 60, thin and frail, with hands that trembled slightly. She watched them come in with wary eyes. "Mom, this is Victoria and Ryan. They're here to talk about the modifications." "More people telling me what I can't do," Mrs. Gomez muttered. Victoria wheeled closer. "Actually, we're here to figure out what you can do, and how to make it easier." Mrs. Gomez studied the wheelchair. "You understand then?" "Some of it, yeah." "How long?" 2 years. Car accident." Mrs. Gomez nodded slowly. "Ms. 15 years. Got worse last year. Can't live alone anymore. Had to move in with Patricia." She gestured around the room. "This house wasn't made for someone like me." "Most houses aren't, but we can fix that." They spent an hour going through the house. Ryan took measurements and notes. Victoria talked to Mrs. Gomez about what she struggled with most. The front steps, the narrow bathroom doorway, the shower with its high lip. "I used to love long baths," Mrs. Gomez said. "Now I can barely manage a shower without Patricia's help. I hate being helpless." "You're not helpless. Your environment isn't working for you. That's different." "You sound like my physical therapist." "Your physical therapist is smart then." Mrs. Gomez almost smiled. "You're different from the other contractors. They talked about me like I wasn't there. Asked Patricia all the questions, like being disabled made me invisible." "People do that," Victoria said. "It's infuriating." "You get it." "Unfortunately, yes." Patricia walked them out after the assessment. "So what do you think? Can you help?" "Absolutely," Ryan said. "We can start next week if you want. Should take about 2 weeks to complete everything." "And the cost?" $11,500. "I can have a detailed quote to you by Monday." Patricia's eyes got wet. "The other companies wanted so much more. I didn't know how we'd afford it." "You shouldn't have to choose between accessibility and financial stability," Victoria said. "That's why we do this." They shook hands, drove away with their first real contract. Ryan was quiet until they hit the highway. Then he pulled over at a rest stop and just sat there gripping the steering wheel. "We did it," he said. "We got one job. That's not exactly a success story yet." "Are you kidding? We have a client, a real client, who's paying us real money to do real work." He turned to look at her. "This is actually happening." Victoria felt it too. The weight of it. The possibility. "Yeah, I guess it is." "I'm terrified." "Me too." "Good. If we weren't scared, we'd probably be doing it wrong." They stopped for coffee on the way home, sat in the truck with the heat running, and went over everything they'd need. Materials, subcontractors for the electrical and plumbing work, permits, insurance. The list was endless. "We're going to mess this up," Victoria said. "Probably, but we'll fix it as we go." "What if we can't? What if we take her money and can't deliver? Then we give the money back and eat the loss, but we won't let that happen." "How do you know?" Ryan looked at her steadily. "Because neither of us knows how to fail quietly. We'll make this work even if it kills us." He was right. They would make it work, because the alternative was admitting defeat, and neither of them was built for that. The Gomez job started the following Tuesday. Ryan brought in a guy he'd worked with before to handle the plumbing. Victoria managed the schedule and ordered materials. Lucy drew pictures of what the house would look like when they were done, complete with rainbows and improbable numbers of flowers. Mrs. Gomez watched them work with sharp eyes, pointed out when things weren't quite right, demanded changes. Victoria appreciated it. Most people were too polite or too intimidated to speak up. Mrs. Gomez had no such filter. "That ramp's too steep," she said on day 3. Ryan checked his measurements. "It's within code." "Code is the minimum. I need better than minimum." "That'll cost more." "So charge me more. I'd rather pay extra than break my neck." Ryan adjusted the ramp, made it longer, more gradual. Mrs. Gomez tested it and nodded approval. "Now that's how it should be done." Patricia apologized later. "Sorry, she's very particular." "Don't apologize," Victoria said. "She's right. Code minimums aren't good enough. We should be building to what people actually need." Most contractors don't think that way. Most contractors don't use wheelchairs. By the end of week 1, they'd finished the ramps and widened the doorways. Week 2 brought the bathroom renovation. The roll-in shower was the biggest challenge. The subfloor had water damage they hadn't anticipated. Ryan had to rebuild part of it before they could install the new shower pan. It put them 3 days behind schedule and $800 over budget. Victoria called Patricia to explain. Expected pushback. Got understanding instead. "These things happen. Just get it done right." "We'll absorb the cost difference. This is on us." "You don't have to do that." "Yes, we do. We quoted you a price. We're sticking to it." They ate the $800, worked longer hours to make up the time. By the end of week 2, the job was done. Mrs. Gomez tested every modification, wheeled through doorways, up and down ramps, into the shower, and back out. Finally, she looked at them and smiled. "It's perfect. This is the first time in 2 years I felt like this house was actually mine." Patricia cried, hugged both of them, wrote a check that didn't bounce. They drove home exhausted and broke and happier than Victoria had been in years. "One down," Ryan said. "Several thousand to go. We'll get there." That night, Lucy made them a celebration dinner. Spaghetti with sauce from a jar and garlic bread that was slightly burned. It was the best meal Victoria had ever eaten. "You did it," Lucy said, raising her juice box in a toast. "You helped people." "We did," Victoria agreed. "Just like superheroes." "I don't think superheroes do bathroom renovations." "They would if people needed it." Lucy was firm on this point. Helping is helping. Ryan and Victoria exchanged smiles over her head. The kid had a point. Word spread faster than Victoria expected. Patricia told her support group. Someone there told their sister. That person posted in a community forum. Within 2 weeks, they had 3 more inquiries. Not all of them panned out. Some people couldn't afford even their reduced rates. Some wanted free consultations they could take to cheaper contractors. But enough jobs came through that they had work booked for the next month. Victoria spent her days managing logistics. Ryan spent his on-job sites. Lucy spent her afternoons doing homework at whatever house they were working on that week. It was chaos. It was exhausting. It was everything Victoria had thought she didn't want. It was also perfect. One afternoon in late March, Victoria was at the Gomez house dropping off some touch-up paint when Mrs. Gomez called her inside. "Sit with me a minute," she said. Victoria wheeled over to the window where Mrs. Gomez was watching birds at a feeder. "I wanted to thank you," Mrs. Gomez said. "Really thank you. Not just for the work, for treating me like a person." "You are a person." "You'd be surprised how many people forget that." She turned to look at Victoria. "How long did it take you to adjust to the chair?" I'm still adjusting. Good answer. The people who say they're fine right away are lying. Mrs. Gomez was quiet for a moment. I spent the first 5 years after my diagnosis pretending everything was normal, hiding symptoms, refusing help, nearly destroyed my relationship with Patricia in the process. What changed? I fell, broke my hip, spent 3 months in rehab, had a lot of time to think about what I was doing and why. She smiled slightly. Turns out pride is expensive and mostly pointless. I'm still working on that part. Most of us are, but I'll tell you what my therapist told me. Accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Knowing you can't do everything alone is actually a sign of strength. Victoria thought about that, about Ryan offering her shelter, about Lucy's uncomplicated affection, about building a business with someone she'd known for less than 2 months. I used to think asking for help meant I'd failed, she said. And now? Now I think maybe I had it backwards. Maybe the real failure is refusing help when you need it. Mrs. Gomez nodded. You're learning. That's good. Keep learning. That night, Victoria told Ryan about the conversation. She's right, you know, he said. They were in the kitchen as usual, going over invoices. About the help thing. I know. Do you, though? Because you still act like being here is a burden, like you're inconveniencing us. Victoria looked up from the spreadsheet. Aren't I? No, you're contributing. You're part of this. Ryan gestured around the kitchen. Part of us. That's different. How? Because you and Lucy are a family. I'm just someone who needed a place to stay. Ryan set down his pen. Is that really what you think? I don't know what to think anymore. Then let me make it clear. You're not just staying here, you're building a life here, with us. And if you can't see that, you're not as smart as I thought. Victoria felt her chest tighten. Ryan, Lucy asks about you when you're not here, plans her day around whether you'll be home for dinner, draws pictures of our family, and always includes you. She's 6. She doesn't understand. She understands better than you do, apparently. Ryan's voice was gentle but firm. You matter to her, to both of us, and pretending you don't isn't protecting anyone. It's just making you lonely. I don't want her to get hurt when I leave. Who says you're leaving? I can't stay here forever. Why not? The question hung in the air. Victoria didn't have a good answer. The truth was, she didn't want to leave, hadn't wanted to for weeks, but admitting that felt dangerous. Because this isn't my real life, she said finally. What's your real life then? The one where your father treats you like an asset and your fiancé abandons you? That one? That's not fair. Neither is acting like the best thing that's happened to you in years is temporary. Ryan stood up. I'm not asking you to promise forever. I'm just asking you to stop 1 foot out the door. You're here. Be here. He left her sitting at the table with the invoices and her own fear. She stared at the numbers until they blurred. Ryan was right. She'd been holding back, keeping emotional distance, protecting herself from the possibility of loss by never fully committing. But protection came with a cost, and maybe the cost was higher than the risk. The next morning, Victoria woke up to voices outside her room. Ryan and someone else, a woman. She got dressed quickly and wheeled to the kitchen. A stranger stood by the counter. Tall, blonde, put together in a way that screamed money. She looked at Victoria with cold assessment. You must be the house guest, she said. Victoria, this is Melissa, Ryan said. His voice was tight. Lucy's grandmother, Sarah's mother. Victoria understood immediately. This was not a friendly visit. Nice to meet you, she said anyway. Melissa's smile didn't reach her eyes. I'm sure. Ryan, can we talk privately? Anything you need to say? You can say in front of Victoria. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't really care what you think is appropriate. You show up at 7 in the morning without calling. You don't get to dictate the conversation. Melissa's expression hardened. Fine. I'm concerned about Lucy, about the environment you're raising her in. What environment would that be? One where strange women are living in your house, where you're starting questionable business ventures instead of maintaining stable employment. Ryan's jaw tightened. Questionable business ventures? We're helping people, making homes accessible. That's questionable to you? What's questionable is your judgment. You barely know this woman and you're living with her? What kind of example does that set? The example that we help people who need help, that we don't judge based on circumstances, that compassion matters more than appearances. Compassion, Melissa laughed. Is that what you're calling it? Victoria felt ice in her stomach. She knew where this was going. I'm going to be direct, Melissa said. I think Lucy should come stay with me for a while, until you get your life sorted out. My life is sorted out. You're running a startup with no guarantee of success. You're living with a woman you met 6 weeks ago. You're teaching my granddaughter that instability is normal. I'm teaching her that people deserve kindness. That's more than you ever taught your daughter. Melissa went pale. How dare you? Sarah told me how you treated her when she wanted to be a teacher instead of a lawyer. How you cut her off for marrying someone you thought was beneath her. Don't talk to me about examples. That was different. No, it wasn't. And I'm not letting you do to Lucy what you did to Sarah. Melissa turned to Victoria. You understand what you're doing, don't you? Inserting yourself into this family, making that little girl dependent on you? I'm not inserting myself anywhere. Ryan offered me a place to stay when I needed it. How convenient for you. A free place to live, a ready-made family, a man who's too grief-stricken to see he's being used. That's enough, Ryan said. But Victoria held up a hand. No, let her finish. Clearly she's been holding this in. Melissa looked her up and down. You're damaged goods. Everyone knows it. Your father threw you out. Your fiancé left you. And now you've latched onto the first man who showed you pity. You're right, Victoria said quietly. I am damaged. I did get thrown out, and my fiancé did leave. But I'm not using Ryan. I'm working with him to build something meaningful. And if you can't see the difference, that says more about you than it does about me. I want Lucy out of this house. Not happening, Ryan said flatly. I'll go to court if I have to. I have lawyers, resources. What do you have? I have a home where Lucy is loved and safe, where she's learning to be a good person instead of a judgmental snob. That's more than enough. Melissa grabbed her purse. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is ever letting you near my daughter. She was my daughter first, and you made her miserable. I'm not making that mistake with Lucy. Melissa left, slammed the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Ryan stood there breathing hard. Victoria wanted to say something but couldn't find words. I'm sorry, Ryan said finally. You shouldn't have had to deal with that. She's scared. She's controlling. There's a difference. Both things can be true. Victoria wheeled closer. She lost her daughter. She's terrified of losing her granddaughter, too. That doesn't give her the right to attack you. No, but it explains it. Victoria touched his arm. Are you okay? No, but I will be. Ryan ran his hands through his hair. She's right about one thing, though. What's that? I do have a lot riding on this business. If it fails, I don't have a backup plan, and Lucy's caught in the middle. So we make sure it doesn't fail. That easy, huh? No, but we do it anyway. Ryan looked at her. Really looked. Why are you still here, Victoria? Really? What do you mean? You could leave. Get your own place. Your father's funding the company. You don't need to stay in my spare room anymore. Victoria's heart kicked against her ribs. Do you want me to leave? I'm asking why you're staying. It was a fair question, one she'd been avoiding for weeks. Because I'm happier here than I've been anywhere else, she said finally. Because Lucy makes me laugh, and you make me feel like I'm worth something beyond my productivity. Because for the first time in my life, I'm part of something real. Ryan's expression softened. Good. Because I don't want you to leave. I'm just scared that eventually you'll realize you settled, that you gave up a better life for this one. There is no better life. There's just life. And I'd rather live it here with you and Lucy than anywhere else. Even when my former mother-in-law shows up and calls you damaged goods? Especially then, because you defended me. Because you didn't question whether she was right. Because you saw me as a person instead of a problem. Ryan pulled her into a hug. It was awkward with the wheelchair between them, but neither cared. We're going to make this work, he said into her hair. The business, this, all of it. I know. And if Melissa tries to take Lucy, we'll fight her. Together. Together. They stayed like that until Lucy came out of her room, saw them hugging, and demanded to be included. The three of them stood in the kitchen holding on to each other while morning light filtered through the windows. It wasn't perfect. The threat from Melissa was real. The business was fragile. The future was uncertain. But they had each other. And sometimes that was enough to start with. The legal papers arrived 3 days later. Ryan opened the envelope at the kitchen table while Victoria made coffee. His face went gray as he read. "She actually did it," he said. "Let me see." Victoria read through the petition for custody modification. Melissa was arguing that Ryan's living situation was unstable and inappropriate, that Lucy needed a more structured environment, that recent changes in Ryan's life demonstrated poor judgment. "This is garbage," Victoria said. "No judge is going to take Lucy away because you started a business and have a roommate. You'd be surprised what judges do." Ryan's voice was flat. "Sarah's family has money, connections. They can make this ugly." "Then we fight ugly." "With what? We're barely breaking even. Can't afford lawyers who can go up against theirs." Lucy walked in, backpack slung over one shoulder. She looked between them and her face fell. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, Bug," Ryan said too quickly. "You're lying. You have your lying face on." "I don't have a lying face." "You do. Your mouth goes all tight." Lucy set her backpack down. "Is it about Grandma Melissa?" Ryan and Victoria exchanged glances. There was no point hiding it. Lucy was too smart. "She wants you to come live with her for a while," Ryan said carefully. "I don't want to live with her. I want to live here." "I know. And that's what's going to happen. But we might have to go to court to make sure." Lucy's eyes got big. "Like on TV? With a judge and everything?" "Sort of." "Will I have to talk to the judge?" "Maybe. I don't know yet." Lucy was quiet for a moment. Then she climbed into Victoria's lap, something she'd been doing more and more lately. "Is Grandma Melissa mad because of Victoria?" "She's mad because she doesn't understand our life," Ryan said. "And she thinks her way is the only right way." "That's dumb. There's lots of right ways to do things. Ms. Peterson says diversity makes us stronger." "Ms. Peterson is a smart teacher." "I know. She has good stickers." Lucy looked up at Victoria. "Are you going to leave because of this?" Victoria's throat tightened. "No, I'm not leaving." "Promise?" "I promise." "Good. Because you're part of our family now, and families don't leave." The school bus honked outside. Lucy hopped down, grabbed her backpack and ran for the door, stopped halfway and turned back. "Dad?" "Yeah, Bug?" "If I have to talk to the judge, I'm going to tell them the truth, that I'm happy here, that Victoria makes everything better, and that Grandma Melissa is nice, but she doesn't laugh enough." Then she was gone, leaving Ryan and Victoria sitting in the sudden quiet. "We can't lose her," Ryan said. "We won't." "You don't know that." "No, but I know we're going to fight like hell to keep her." Victoria picked up the legal papers. "I'm calling my father. He'll know lawyers who can handle this." "I don't want to owe him anything." "You're not owing him." "I am. And I'll deal with the consequences." Ryan looked at her for a long moment. "Why are you doing this?" "Because Lucy's right. We're a family, and you don't abandon family." She made the call before she could second-guess herself. Her father answered on the third ring. "Victoria, I wasn't expecting to hear from you. I need a favor." "Name it." She explained the situation, kept it brief and factual, didn't let emotion creep into her voice. Edward was quiet when she finished. "Melissa Ashford. I know that family. Old money. Connected. They're not going to back down easily." "I know. That's why I need the best. I'll make some calls, have someone contact you by end of day." "Thank you." "Victoria?" Her father's voice softened. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry you're going through this. You don't even know Ryan and Lucy." "No. But I know you wouldn't fight this hard for people who didn't matter." She hung up before he could say anything else that might crack her composure. The lawyer called at 4. Her name was Patricia Lynn, and she had a reputation for being ruthless. Victoria liked her immediately. "I've reviewed the preliminary filing," Patricia said. "It's weak. A lot of innuendo, not much substance. But weak cases can still cause damage if we're not careful." "What do we need to do?" Ryan asked. They had her on speaker. "First, I need to know everything. Your relationship with Victoria, your business arrangement, your financial situation, any skeletons in either of your closets." There's nothing, Ryan said. Everyone has something. Ex-girlfriends who might talk, debts, history of substance abuse. I'm clean, no drugs, social drinker at best. Haven't dated anyone seriously since my wife died. And you? Patricia asked Victoria. Former CEO. Became paralyzed 2 years ago. Got thrown out by my father and fiancé. Been living with Ryan for about 2 months. That's going to be their angle. That you're taking advantage of a grieving widower. I'm not. I know. But perception matters. We need to control the narrative. Patricia was all business. I'm going to need financial records, character witnesses, documentation of Lucy's well-being, school reports, medical records, statements from teachers and neighbors. How much is this going to cost? Ryan asked. I'm working pro bono. Edward Hale and I have history. He called in a favor. Victoria felt something unknot in her chest. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get messy. Melissa Ashford doesn't lose gracefully. The next week was a blur of documentation and preparation. Teachers wrote glowing reports about Lucy. Neighbors gave statements about Ryan's character. Even Mrs. Gomez wrote a letter describing how Victoria and Ryan had changed her life. But Melissa wasn't sitting idle. She filed motions questioning Ryan's financial stability, raised concerns about Victoria's disability and whether she could adequately help care for a child, even implied that there might be something inappropriate happening. She's desperate, Patricia said during one of their strategy sessions, throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. It's working, Ryan said. I can't sleep. Can barely focus on work. All I can think about is losing Lucy. That's what she wants. She wants you rattled. Don't give her the satisfaction. Easy to say, harder to do. Victoria watched Ryan deteriorate over the next few days, saw him second-guess every decision, saw the fear eat at him. One night she found him sitting in Lucy's room just watching her sleep. She's okay, Victoria said softly. For now. But what if the judge thinks Melissa's right? What if they decide Lucy would be better off in some mansion with tutors and nannies? Lucy doesn't want tutors and nannies. She wants you. Kids don't always get what they want. No, but good parents fight for them anyway. Victoria wheeled closer. You're a good parent, Ryan. Anyone who spends 5 minutes with Lucy can see that. I'm terrified. I know, so am I. He looked at her. Why? She's not your daughter. She feels like she could be. The words hung in the air. Victoria hadn't meant to say them, but now that they were out, she couldn't take them back. Victoria, I'm not trying to replace Sarah. I know that's not possible, but Lucy's worked her way into my heart, whether I planned it or not, and the idea of her being taken away, her voice cracked. I can't stand it. Ryan moved to sit on the floor next to her wheelchair, took her hand. I need to tell you something. Okay. When Sarah died, I thought that was it. Thought I'd had my chance at love and lost it. Figured the rest of my life would just be going through the motions for Lucy's sake. Ryan, let me finish. He squeezed her hand. Then you showed up. This angry, brilliant, broken woman who refused to quit even when she had every reason to. And slowly, without me even realizing it, you became essential. You and Lucy laughing at breakfast. You falling asleep on the couch with work papers everywhere. You fighting for us like we're worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for. So are you. And I need you to know that whatever happens with this custody thing, you're not alone. We're in this together. Victoria felt tears on her face. I love her, Ryan. I love Lucy. And She stopped herself. And what? She couldn't say it. Couldn't put that weight on him when everything was already falling apart. And I'm not going anywhere. It wasn't what she'd meant to say, but it was true enough. The custody hearing was scheduled for mid-April. Patricia prepared them for every possible question, coached them on how to present themselves, warned them that Melissa would try to make them look negligent. Remember, Patricia said, stay calm. Don't get defensive. Answer questions honestly, but don't volunteer extra information. And whatever you do, don't lose your temper. I won't, Ryan said. I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Victoria. Victoria tried to look offended. I'm very calm. You're a fighter. That's good in business. Less good in court. Judges don't like aggressive women. That's sexist. It's reality. Work with me here. The night before the hearing, none of them could sleep. Ryan paced. Victoria reorganized their files for the 10th time. Lucy sat at the kitchen table drawing pictures of the judge as various animals. "What's that one?" Victoria asked, pointing at a particularly elaborate drawing. "A giraffe judge, because they can see everything from up high." "That's actually pretty insightful." "I know. I'm gifted." Lucy had picked that word up from someone at school and used it constantly. "Do you think the judge will like me?" "The judge will love you," Ryan said. "Everyone loves you." "Not Grandma Melissa." "She loves you. She's just confused about what that means." Lucy thought about this. Ms. Peterson says love means wanting someone to be happy, even if it's not what you want. Ms. Peterson is really smart. "I already said that." Lucy went back to her drawing. "I hope the judge is smart too, because I'm going to tell them I want to stay here, with you and Victoria, as a family." Victoria and Ryan exchanged glances over her head. The weight of what they were asking this kid to carry felt crushing. "You don't have to say anything you don't want to," Ryan said. "The judge might not even talk to you." "But if they do, I'm telling the truth. That's what you taught me." "I know, Bug. I just don't want you to feel pressured." "I don't feel pressured. I feel sure." Lucy looked up with those serious 6-year-old eyes. "This is my family. I should get to say so." The courtroom was smaller than Victoria expected, less dramatic. Just a lot of wood paneling and uncomfortable chairs. Melissa sat on the other side with 2 lawyers in expensive suits. She looked polished and confident. Ryan looked like he might throw up. The judge was a woman in her 50s with reading glasses and a no-nonsense expression. She reviewed the files while everyone waited in tense silence. "This is a petition for modification of custody," she said finally. "Mrs. Ashford, you're seeking primary custody of your granddaughter Lucy Carter. Mr. Carter, you're opposing this petition. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," both lawyers said. "Let's start with you, Mrs. Ashford. Why do you believe a change in custody is in Lucy's best interest?" Melissa's lawyer stood up, smooth and practiced. He painted a picture of instability. Ryan's new business venture, his cohabitation with a woman he barely knew, the rapid changes in Lucy's life. "Furthermore, Your Honor, we have concerns about Miss Hale's ability to assist in childcare given her physical limitations. While we sympathize with her condition, we must consider Lucy's needs." Victoria's hands tightened on her armrests. Patricia shot her a warning look. The judge turned to Patricia. "Response?" "Your Honor, this petition is based entirely on speculation and prejudice. Mr. Carter is a devoted father who has raised Lucy alone for 4 years following his wife's death. Lucy is thriving. Her school reports show excellent academic progress and strong social development. Her pediatrician confirms she's healthy and well-adjusted." Patricia presented their evidence, our teacher statements, medical records, character references. It was impressive and thorough. Then Melissa's lawyer called Ryan to the stand. The questions started innocent enough. How long had he known Victoria? What were their living arrangements? How was the business doing? Then they got pointed. "Mr. Carter, isn't it true that you met Miss Hale only 3 months ago?" "About that, yes." "And within weeks, you invited her to live in your home?" "She needed help." "You make a habit of inviting strangers to live with you and your daughter?" "She wasn't a stranger. She was someone in a bad situation who needed support. A situation she found herself in because her own family deemed her irresponsible." "Objection," Patricia said. "Speculation and irrelevant." "Sustained," the judge said. But the damage was done. The questions continued, each one designed to make Ryan look impulsive, reckless, more concerned with his new relationship than his daughter's welfare. "Isn't it true that you quit a stable job to start a risky business venture?" "I left a job where I was undervalued to start a company that helps people." "A company that's barely profitable." "We've been operating for 2 months. We're building something sustainable." "Or you're chasing a fantasy while your daughter's stability suffers." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Lucy is my priority. Everything I do is for her." "Including moving your disabled girlfriend into her home?" "Victoria is not my girlfriend. She's my business partner and friend." "How convenient. That allows you to avoid questions about the appropriateness of the relationship." Patricia objected. The judge sustained it, but Victoria could see Ryan crumbling. When they called Victoria to the stand, she was ready. Melissa's lawyer smiled at her like a shark. Miss Hale, you were recently disinherited by your father, correct? I was removed from his will and company. Yes. Because of your behavior? Because of his prejudice against my disability? Or because you demonstrated poor judgment? My judgment was fine. His compassion was lacking. You were engaged to be married. That engagement ended shortly before you moved in with Mr. Carter. Can you explain those circumstances? My fiancé left me when I became paralyzed. He decided I was no longer worth the effort. That must have been devastating. It was clarifying. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. Clarifying? It showed me who actually cared about me versus who cared about what I could do for them. And Mr. Carter? Which category does he fall into? He's someone who helps people without expecting anything in return, something you clearly don't understand. Patricia winced. The judge's expression didn't change, but Victoria thought she saw something flicker in her eyes. Miss Hale, isn't it true that you've been dependent on Mr. Carter's charity for months? I've been living in his home while we build a business together. That's not charity, that's partnership. A business you've pressured him into? A business we're building together because we both believe in it. How noble. And when this business fails, what then? Will you move on to the next man willing to support you? Victoria felt rage building, forced it down. The business won't fail. And even if it did, I'm not going anywhere. Because unlike some people, I don't abandon the people I care about when things get hard. The lawyer's smile widened. You care about Mr. Carter? Too late, Victoria realized the trap. I care about him and Lucy. Yes. In what capacity? In the capacity of someone who values them as human beings. That's not what I asked. It's the answer you're getting, the judge intervened. Move on, counselor. But the implication hung in the air that Victoria was using Ryan, that their relationship was inappropriate, that Lucy was being exposed to something unstable. When they broke for lunch, Ryan looked shattered. I'm sorry, Victoria said. I let him get to me. You were defending us. Don't apologize for that. But I made it worse. Patricia joined them in the hallway. Actually, you didn't. The judge doesn't like Melissa's lawyer, I could tell. He's too slick, too aggressive. Judges prefer authenticity. So we're okay? Ryan asked. We're hanging in there, but this afternoon they're calling Lucy. That's going to be the deciding factor. Victoria felt sick. She's 6. She shouldn't have to do this. I know, but it's her life. She deserves to be heard. Lucy took the stand after lunch. She looked tiny in the big witness chair. The judge smiled at her gently. Hi, Lucy. I'm Judge Morrison. Do you know why you're here? Because Grandma Melissa wants me to live with her, but I want to stay with Dad. I see. Can you tell me about your life with your dad? Lucy's face lit up. She talked about their routines, how Dad made her breakfast every morning even when he was tired, how they did homework together, how he never missed a soccer game or school event. And what about Victoria? The judge asked. Victoria's the best. She helps me with math because Dad's terrible at math. And she tells me stories about when she used to run a big company, and she doesn't treat me like I'm dumb just because I'm a kid. How long has Victoria been living with you? A few months, since Dad found her at the bus stop. The judge looked interested. Your dad found her at a bus stop? Yeah, she was freezing and didn't have anywhere to go. So Dad brought her home because that's what you do when people need help. You help them. That's very kind. Dad says kindness is the most important thing, more important than money or being fancy or anything. Melissa's lawyer tried to interrupt, asked if Lucy felt safe, if there was anything that scared her or made her uncomfortable. Nothing scares me at home, Lucy said firmly. I feel safe there with Dad and Victoria. But Victoria's not your mother. No. My mom died, but Victoria's part of our family anyway. Families don't have to be perfect to be real. The lawyer looked frustrated, tried a different angle. Wouldn't you like to live in a big house, have your own room, go to a better school? I have my own room, and my school is great, and houses don't matter. People matter. Victoria felt tears streaming down her face. Patricia handed her a tissue without looking away from Lucy. Don't you love your grandmother? The lawyer asked. Of course I love her, but I don't want to live with her. She's nice, but she's always trying to fix things that aren't broken. Lucy looked directly at the judge. I'm happy where I am. Please don't make me leave. The judge's expression softened. Thank you, Lucy. You can step down. Lucy climbed down from the chair and ran straight to Ryan. He held her tight while she buried her face in his shoulder. The judge reviewed her notes. The courtroom was silent except for the scratch of her pen. I've heard enough, she said finally. This petition for custody modification is denied. Lucy will remain in her father's primary custody. Melissa stood up. Your Honor, Mrs. Ashford, I understand your concerns, but this child is thriving. She's loved, she's cared for, and most importantly, she's happy. Those are the only factors that matter to this court. But the instability, what I see is a family adapting to change. That's not instability, that's resilience. The judge looked at Ryan and Victoria. Mr. Carter, Miss Hale, you've built something unconventional, but unconventional doesn't mean wrong. Keep doing what you're doing. She banged her gavel. Case dismissed. Ryan held Lucy so tight, Victoria thought he might never let go. Patricia shook their hands with a rare smile. Melissa left without a word, her lawyers trailing behind. Outside the courthouse, Lucy wanted ice cream to celebrate. They found a shop 3 blocks away and sat outside even though it was cold. We won, Lucy said, around a mouthful of chocolate chip. We did, Ryan agreed, because we're a family, and families stick together. Victoria looked at them, at Ryan's relieved exhaustion, at Lucy's chocolate-covered grin, at the life they'd built in spite of everything. Yeah, she said, we are. That night, after Lucy was asleep, Ryan and Victoria sat on the porch. Spring was finally starting to show itself. The air was still cold, but there were hints of green on the trees. Thank you, Ryan said. For what? For fighting for us? For Lucy? For not running when things got hard? Where would I run to? This is home. Ryan took her hand. Is it? Really? Really? Because I need to know. I can't do this halfway. Can't build something with someone who might leave. Victoria turned to face him. I'm not leaving. I know I've been holding back, protecting myself. But watching Lucy on that stand today, hearing her call us a family, I realized something. What's that? That I've been so afraid of losing things that I forgot to actually live. Forgot to let myself love people. And now? Now I'm done being afraid. She squeezed his hand. I love Lucy. I love what we're building, and She took a breath. I love you. I've been trying not to because it felt too fast and too complicated, but I do. Ryan's eyes went bright. You love me? Apparently. Is that okay? Is it? Victoria, I've been in love with you for weeks. I just didn't think I had the right to say it. Why not? Because you're brilliant and strong and you could have anyone. And I'm just a guy who quit being a doctor to do home repairs. You're not just anything. You're the man who saw me at my lowest and offered help without judgment. The man who's raising an incredible daughter. The man who took a risk on a business because he believed in doing good work. She touched his face. You're everything. He kissed her then, soft and careful and full of promise. When they pulled apart, he was smiling. So what now? Now we keep building. The business, this family, whatever comes next. Together? Together. They sat there until the cold drove them inside. And when Victoria wheeled into the spare room that had become hers, she realized it didn't feel spare anymore. It felt like exactly where she belonged. Summer came hard and fast, bringing work that kept them busy 6 days a week. The business was growing faster than they'd anticipated. Word spread through disability communities, support groups, online forums. People who'd been quoted impossible prices by other contractors found their way to Ryan and Victoria. By August, they'd completed 15 projects and had 8 more scheduled through the fall. They hired 2 part-time workers, rented a small office space that doubled as a workshop, started turning away jobs because they couldn't keep up with demand. Victoria's father called one evening in late August. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. I saw the article, Edward said without preamble. What article? In the Business Journal, about your company. How you're changing the accessibility modification industry. Victoria had forgotten about the interview. A reporter had reached out after hearing about their work with Mrs. Gomez. She'd agreed reluctantly, expecting nothing to come of it. "It's a small piece," she said, "hardly newsworthy." "It's a good piece. You should be proud." The words felt strange coming from him. Pride wasn't something Edward Hale offered easily. "Thank you," Victoria said carefully. "I also wanted to tell you that the medical robotics project launched successfully. The team you trained did excellent work." "That's good. Those people deserve the credit." "They did. But so do you. You built the foundation they're standing on." Edward paused. "I'm sorry I didn't see that before. Didn't see a lot of things." Victoria looked across the kitchen where Ryan was helping Lucy with a science project involving vinegar and baking soda. Normal evening chaos, the kind she'd never had growing up. "I'm not coming back," she said, "if that's what this call is about." "It's not. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying, to be better, to actually be a father instead of a CEO. That's going to take more than one phone call." "I know, which is why I'd like to take you to dinner, if you're willing. No agenda, just a chance to talk." Victoria's first instinct was to refuse, but she thought about what Lucy had said in court, about love meaning wanting someone to be happy even when it's hard. "Okay," she heard herself say, "but Ryan and Lucy come too. We're a package deal now." "I understand. Next Saturday?" "Next Saturday." She hung up feeling unsettled. Ryan noticed immediately. "Everything okay?" "My father wants to have dinner, all of us." "That should be interesting." "That's one word for it." Lucy looked up from her volcano, which was currently oozing red foam across the newspaper-covered table. "Is your dad nice now?" "I don't know yet. We'll find out. If he's mean, I'll tell him off. I'm good at that. Ask Marcus." Ryan tried not to smile. "We're not telling off Victoria's father." "Why not? If he's mean, someone should tell him." "Because sometimes adults are complicated, Bug." "That's a dumb excuse." "Probably, but it's the one we've got." The dinner was at a restaurant Victoria had been to 100 times for business meetings. White tablecloths, wine list longer than the menu. The kind of place where conversations were conducted in low voices and everyone pretended to be more refined than they actually were. Lucy hated it immediately. "Why is everything so quiet?" she whispered loudly. "Are people not allowed to talk?" "They're talking, just politely," Ryan said. "This is dumb. Can we go to the place with the peanuts on the floor?" "After this, I promise." Edward was already seated when they arrived. He stood when he saw them, and Victoria noticed he looked different, less polished, more tired, more human. "Victoria." He hugged her awkwardly, then turned to Ryan. "Mr. Carter, thank you for coming." "Ryan's fine." "Ryan, then." Edward looked down at Lucy. "And you must be Lucy." "That's me." "Are you Victoria's dad?" "I am." "You look old." "Lucy," Ryan said. "What?" "He does. Older than you, and you're old." Edward surprised them all by laughing. "You're right, I am old." "That's okay. Victoria says old people have more stories." They sat down, ordered food. The conversation was stilted at first. Edward asked about the business. Ryan answered with careful professionalism. Victoria watched them both and felt the weight of unspoken history. Lucy, oblivious to the tension, asked Edward approximately 40 questions. Where did he live? Did he have pets? What was his favorite color? Did he know how to do a cartwheel? "I haven't attempted a cartwheel in 50 years, Edward said. "You should try. They're fun. I'll take your word for it." Watching her father interact with Lucy, Victoria saw something she'd never seen before. He was gentle with the kid, patient, actually listening instead of just waiting to talk. Maybe people could change. Maybe. After dinner, Edward asked if he could speak to Victoria privately. Ryan took Lucy to look at the dessert display case, leaving them alone at the table. "I meant what I said on the phone," Edward started. "I'm trying to do better, but I realize I don't actually know how." "Start by being honest. That's new for you." He flinched but didn't argue. "Fair enough. Honestly, then, I was wrong about everything, about your fiancé, about cutting you off, about treating you like an asset instead of my daughter." His voice got rough. "Your mother would be ashamed of me. Victoria hadn't expected him to bring up her mother. Mom would have kicked your ass months ago. She would have. She was always better at the human parts than I was. Edward looked at his hands. I've been going to therapy, trying to understand why I made the choices I did. And apparently I'm terrified of emotional vulnerability and use control as a coping mechanism for fear of loss. That sounds like therapists speak. It is, but it's also true. He met her eyes. I lost your mother to something I couldn't control, couldn't fix with money or power or connections. And that broke something in me, made me hold everything else too tight. Victoria felt something shift in her chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. You can't control people into loving you, she said quietly. That's not how it works. I'm starting to realize that, slowly. So what now? Now I hope you'll let me try again. Not as a CEO or investor, just as your father. Victoria looked across the restaurant at Ryan and Lucy, at her actual family, the one she'd chosen and that had chosen her back. I can't promise it'll be easy, she said. I'm angry at you. That doesn't just go away. I know. And I won't tolerate you trying to run my life. Those days are over. Understood. But I'm willing to try, if you actually mean it. I do. They didn't hug, didn't have some big emotional breakthrough. But when Edward paid the check and they all walked out together, something felt different, like a door that had been locked for years was finally cracked open. The business hit a major milestone in September. 20 completed projects, a waiting list of clients, enough steady income that Ryan could quit taking side jobs. They celebrated with cheap champagne in their office while Lucy played on her tablet in the corner. We did it, Ryan said. Actually built something sustainable. We're barely 6 months in. Don't jinx it. I'm not jinxing anything. I'm acknowledging success. You should try it sometime. Victoria smiled. Fine. We're successful. Happy? Deliriously. Lucy looked up from her game. Does this mean we're rich? We're comfortable, Victoria said. There's a difference. Can I get a puppy? No. But we're successful. You just said so. Success doesn't equal puppy. It should. Ryan pulled Victoria closer. She'd been spending most nights in his room instead of the spare room for months now. Neither of them had officially acknowledged the change, but Lucy had noticed and declared it about time. I've been thinking, Ryan said. Dangerous. Shut up. I've been thinking that maybe we should make some changes. What kind of changes? The kind where you stop calling it the spare room and we acknowledge that this is permanent. Victoria's heart kicked up. Permanent how? However you want. I'm just saying that we've been pretending this is temporary for months, and it's getting ridiculous. What are you asking exactly? Ryan pulled back to look at her. I'm asking if you'll stay, officially. Not as a guest or roommate or business partner who happens to live here, but as someone who belongs here, with us. I already belong here. Then let's make it official. Victoria understood what he was really asking. Not marriage, not yet, but commitment, real commitment. Yeah, she said. Okay. Just okay? What do you want, a speech? Little bit of enthusiasm wouldn't hurt. She kissed him to shut him up. Lucy made gagging noises from the corner. You guys are gross. You'll understand when you're older, Ryan said. I'm never getting that old. October brought cooler weather and a call that changed everything. Victoria answered her phone while reviewing blueprints for their next project. The voice on the other end was professional and unfamiliar. Is this Victoria Hale? Yes. My name is Dr. Sarah Kim. I'm calling from the Spinal Research Institute. We've been following your case for some time now. Victoria's stomach dropped. My case? Your medical records were flagged in our database. We're conducting trials for a new treatment protocol involving stem cell therapy and nerve regeneration. Your specific injury pattern makes you an ideal candidate. I don't understand. We believe we can restore some of your mobility. Not full recovery, but significant improvement. Enough that you might be able to walk short distances with assistance. The world tilted. Victoria sat down hard. That's not possible. It wasn't. but the technology has advanced considerably in the past 2 years. We've had a 70% success rate in our preliminary trials. What does the treatment involve? Dr. Kim explained. Multiple procedures over 6 months, intensive physical therapy, no guarantees, significant pain and risk. I need to think about it, Victoria said. Of course, but I should mention that we're only accepting 5 more patients for this trial phase. If you're interested, we'd need to begin evaluation within the next month. Victoria hung up in a daze. Ryan found her 20 minutes later still sitting there staring at nothing. What's wrong? She told him. Watched his face go through shock, hope, uncertainty. That's incredible, he said finally. Isn't it? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? This could change everything. Exactly. It could change everything. Ryan sat down next to her. Talk to me. What if I do it and it works? What if I can walk again? That would be amazing. Would it? Because I've spent 2 years building a life around this wheelchair, building a business around understanding accessibility, being someone who gets it. Her voice cracked. What if I stop being that person? You'd still be you. Would I, though? Or would I become someone who used to be disabled? Someone who got fixed? Ryan was quiet for a moment. Is that what scares you, or is it something else? Victoria looked at him. What if I can walk and suddenly I don't fit here anymore? What if I become someone different and you don't want that person? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Ryan, no, seriously. You think I'm with you because you're in a wheelchair? You think that's what I fell in love with? I don't know. Maybe you like being the hero, the guy who saved the broken woman. Ryan's expression went hard. Don't do that. Don't reduce what we have to some savior complex bullshit. Then what is it? Why do you love me? Because you're brilliant and stubborn and you fight for people who can't fight for themselves. Because you make Lucy laugh and you call me on my crap and you built a business from nothing because you refused to quit. He grabbed her hands. None of that has anything to do with whether you can walk. And if you can't see that, you're not as smart as I thought. Victoria felt tears coming. I'm scared. Of what? The procedure? Of everything. Of it working. Of it not working. Of changing. Of staying the same. So we're back to being terrified and doing it anyway. I don't know if I can. Then don't. Turn it down. Stay exactly as you are. I'll love you either way. But what if I regret it? Then you regret it. But you can't make this decision based on fear. You taught me that. He was right. Victoria knew he was right. But knowing something and accepting it were different things. She called Dr. Kim back the next day, scheduled the evaluation, started the process without really believing it would lead anywhere. The testing took 3 days. MRIs, nerve conduction studies, consultations with half a dozen specialists. At the end, Dr. Kim sat down with her in a stark white office. You're an excellent candidate, she said. Your injury is severe but localized. The surrounding tissue is healthy. If we can regenerate the damaged nerve pathways, there's a good chance you'll regain significant function. Define significant. Standing unassisted, walking short distances, possibly up to 100 feet at a time with a walker or cane, improved core strength and stability. Not running marathons. No, not that, but independence. The ability to navigate spaces that aren't wheelchair accessible. The option to choose. Choice. That word hit different. What's the risk? The procedures carry standard surgical risks, infection, reaction to anesthesia, blood clots. But the bigger risk is that it doesn't work, that you go through months of treatment and pain and end up exactly where you started. How likely is that? 30% failure rate, but failure doesn't mean worse, just no change. Victoria thought about it for a week, talked to Ryan and Lucy, called her father, surprisingly, and got his medical contacts to review the research. Everyone told her to do it, to take the chance. Everyone except Mrs. Gomez. Victoria went to visit her on a Saturday afternoon, found her in the accessible garden they'd helped build, reading in the sunshine. I heard about the trial, Mrs. Gomez said without preamble. How did you... Patricia told me. We talk. She set her book down. You're not sure if you should do it. How did you know? Because I got the same call 3 years ago. Different study, similar promises. Victoria stared at her. What did you do? I said no. Why? Mrs. Gomez thought about it for a moment. Because I'd spent 15 years learning to be sick, learning to accept help, learning that my worth wasn't tied to what my body could do. And I was scared that if the treatment failed, I'd lose all that progress, would be right back where I started, hating myself for being broken. Did you regret it? Every day for about 6 months. Then I realized something. The treatment wasn't the question. The question was whether I believed I deserved to feel better. It is exactly that. You're not scared of the procedure. You're scared of wanting something and not getting it. Scared of hope. Victoria felt like she'd been punched. That's not fair. Life's not fair. But you already knew that. Mrs. Gomez wheeled closer. Here's what I learned. Whether you do this treatment or not, you're still you, still worthy, still whole. The wheelchair doesn't define you any more than walking would. You define you. So what should I do? Whatever you want. Not what Ryan wants or Lucy wants or what you think you should want. What do you actually want? Victoria went home and thought about it. Really thought about it. What did she want? She wanted to stand up when Lucy ran to her, wanted to not have to calculate whether buildings were accessible before agreeing to meet someone, wanted to not see pity in strangers' eyes. But she also wanted to keep doing work that mattered, keep understanding what her clients needed because she lived it, keep being someone who proved that disability wasn't the end of everything. Could she have both? She made her decision on a Wednesday morning in November, called Dr. Kim and said yes. The first procedure was scheduled for early December. Ryan took time off to be with her. Lucy made get well cards before Victoria even left for the hospital. You're going to be okay, Lucy said the night before. I know you will. How do you know? Because you're the strongest person I know. Even stronger than Dad, but don't tell him I said that. Victoria pulled her into a hug. I won't tell. The surgery went well. The recovery was brutal. They'd warned her about the pain, about the nausea from medications, about the frustration of slow progress. But knowing something intellectually and experiencing it physically were entirely different. Ryan stayed with her through all of it, held her hair when she threw up, changed her bandages when she couldn't reach, told her to stop being such a terrible patient when she got snappy from pain. I hate this, she said one particularly bad night. I know. What if it doesn't work? What if I did this for nothing? Then at least you tried. That's more than most people can say. The physical therapy started 6 weeks after surgery. Small movements at first, trying to engage muscles that hadn't fired in years. Her therapist was a woman named Jamie, who took exactly zero nonsense. Stop thinking about it, Jamie said. Your brain's trying to control something it needs to relearn instinctively. That doesn't make sense. Neither does most of rehab. Do the exercise. Victoria did the exercise. And the next one. And the 100 after that. Progress was microscopic. A slight twitch in her left toe after 3 weeks. Minimal response in her right foot after 5. The ability to engage her core muscles after 7. This is taking forever, Victoria complained. You want to know what taking forever looks like? Try rebuilding nerve pathways that have been dead for 2 years. This is actually fast. By February, Victoria could feel both legs. Not control them well, but feel them. By March, she could hold herself upright in the parallel bars for 30 seconds. By April, she took her first step. It wasn't elegant. She had to be supported by 2 therapists and barely managed to move her right foot 6 inches forward. But it was a step. Ryan cried when she called to tell him. Lucy screamed so loud the neighbors probably called the police. The steps got easier, longer, more controlled. By June, Victoria could walk the length of the parallel bars unassisted. By August, she could manage 50 feet with a walker. It wasn't running. It wasn't even normal walking. But it was mobility she hadn't had in 3 years. The business kept growing through it all. They hired 3 more workers, opened a second office, started getting calls from other cities asking them to expand. Victoria split her time between physical therapy and work. Some days were good. Some days she couldn't get out of bed from pain. But slowly, the good days started outnumbering the bad. Christmas Eve arrived with snow that turned the neighborhood into something from a postcard. Lucy had been vibrating with excitement for days. Presents were piled under the tree. Dinner was ready. Edward was coming over, another small step in rebuilding that relationship. But the real present was something Victoria had been planning for weeks. When everyone was gathered in the living room, she made an announcement. "I have something to show you." Ryan looked curious. Lucy bounced on the couch. Edward watched with that careful expression he wore around emotions. Victoria stood up from her wheelchair. Ryan started to move toward her, but she held up a hand. "Just watch." She gripped her walker, took a breath, started moving forward. 1 step, 2, 3. It wasn't graceful. Her legs shook. Her balance was questionable, but she made it across the living room to where Ryan stood. "Merry Christmas," she said. Ryan grabbed her before her legs could give out, held her while she clung to him and the walker and whatever stability she could find. Lucy tackled them both, and they ended up on the floor in a heap, laughing and crying and holding on to each other. Edward stood off to the side, looking like he might fall apart. When Victoria caught his eye, she saw something she'd never seen before. Her father was crying. Later, after Lucy had gone to bed buried under new toys, and Edward had left with promises to visit again soon, Ryan and Victoria sat by the Christmas tree. "I'm proud of you," Ryan said, "for doing the treatment, for working so hard, for not giving up." "I almost did, about 1,000 times." "But you didn't, that's what matters." Victoria looked at him, at this man who'd found her at rock bottom and offered her a life instead of pity. "I need to tell you something." "Okay." "That night at the bus stop, when you stopped to help me, I was ready to give up. Not just on walking or my career or my family, on everything." Ryan went very still. "Victoria, I need to say this. I'd convinced myself that without my legs, without my job, without my father's approval, I had no value. That I might as well freeze to death because what was the point? You don't have to—" "But then you showed up. This stranger who treated me like I mattered even when I couldn't see it myself. And slowly, day by day, you and Lucy showed me that worth isn't something you earn. It's something you carry just by being human." Ryan's eyes were wet. "You saved us too, you know." "How?" "We were surviving, going through the motions, pretending we were okay, but we weren't living, not really. Then you came along and reminded us what it felt like to care about something, to build something, to be a family instead of just two people trying not to drown. So we saved each other." "Yeah, I guess we did." They sat there as snow fell outside and lights blinked on the tree, and somewhere in the house Lucy talked in her sleep about something involving dinosaurs and ice cream. This was it, Victoria realized. This was the life she'd been too busy to notice she wanted. Not perfect, not easy, but real in a way that billion-dollar companies and executive titles had never been. She thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, the one who measured success in quarterly earnings and board approvals, who thought vulnerability was weakness and asking for help was failure. That woman would have been horrified by this life, would have seen it as settling, as giving up on everything that mattered. But that woman had been wrong about what mattered. What mattered was Lucy's laugh when Ryan told terrible jokes. What mattered was clients calling to say their modifications had changed their lives. What mattered was Edward showing up to family dinners and actually trying to connect. What mattered was waking up every morning next to someone who loved her, not despite her flaws, but including them. "I have one more present for you," Ryan said, pulling her from her thoughts. "We already did presents. This one's different." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Victoria's heart stopped. "Ryan, before you panic, it's not what you think. Open it." Inside was a key, just a simple silver key. "I don't understand." "It's to the house. Your house, officially." Ryan took her hand. "I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. But I'm asking you to stop treating this like it's temporary, to stop keeping one foot out the door just in case, to actually commit to building a life here. With us." Victoria looked at the key. Such a small thing to represent such a huge question. "What if I'm not good at this?" she asked quietly. "At being part of a family. I never really had one growing up." "Then you learn. We all are." "What if I mess it up?" "Then we fix it. Together. That's how this works." Victoria thought about all the times in the past year she'd wanted to run. all the moments when fear had made her pull back, all the ways she'd protected herself from the possibility of loss. And she thought about what she'd lose if she kept running. "Okay," she said. "Okay? I'm in, fully in. No more hedging bets or keeping backup plans. This is my life. You and Lucy and this weird, beautiful thing we've built." Ryan kissed her softly. "Good. Because I was running out of patience with the whole maybe this is temporary act." "It was never really temporary." "I know, but it's nice to hear you say it." They sat by the tree until the lights started to blur from exhaustion. When they finally went to bed, Victoria took the long way through the house, looked at Lucy's drawings on the fridge, at the business plans spread across the kitchen table, at the photos Ryan had started putting up of the three of them. This was home. Not because it was perfect or easy or what she'd planned, but because it was real. And real, messy, complicated love beat polished emptiness every single time. In the morning, Lucy found the key on the counter where Victoria had left it. "What's this?" "It's mine," Victoria said. "For the house." Lucy's face lit up. "Does that mean you're staying forever?" "It means I'm staying as long as you'll have me." "That's forever then." Lucy hugged her hard. "I told you we were a family." "You did. You were right." "I'm always right. You should listen to me more." Ryan came in carrying coffee, saw them hugging, and smiled. "What did I miss?" "Victoria's staying forever, and I was right about everything," Lucy said. "Sounds about right." They made pancakes for breakfast. Burned the first batch. The second batch was perfect. They ate them while planning the day and arguing about whether to build a snowman or go sledding. Normal family chaos. The kind Victoria had never known she needed. Later, while Lucy was outside building what she insisted was a snow dragon, Victoria stood at the kitchen window watching. Her legs ached from walking the night before. Her back hurt from the cold. But she was standing, on her own, looking at a life she'd built from nothing. Ryan came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "You okay?" "Better than okay." "Good. Because I have news." "What news?" "Edward called this morning, wants to invest more in the business, thinks we should expand nationally." "What did you tell him?" "That we'd think about it. Together." Victoria turned to face him. "You know what the crazy part is?" "What?" "A year ago I would have jumped at that. National expansion, more money, more prestige. Would have thought it was the answer to everything. And now? Now I think maybe we're already doing the important work. Maybe bigger isn't always better." Ryan smiled. "Look at you, learning things." "Shut up. Make me." She kissed him. Outside, Lucy shrieked with laughter as her snow dragon collapsed. Inside, coffee got cold on the counter. The dishwasher beeped. Life continued in all its imperfect glory. And Victoria realized something fundamental, something she'd spent 30 years missing. Success wasn't about how much you accomplished or how many people knew your name or how much money you made. It wasn't about being perfect or powerful or untouchable. Success was about being loved and loving back, about building something that mattered to the people right in front of you, about choosing to show up even when it was hard. She'd lost everything to learn that. Lost her legs, her career, her father's approval, her old life. And in losing it all, she'd found what actually mattered. She found Ryan, who saw her as a whole person instead of a broken one. She found Lucy, who loved without conditions or expectations. She found work that helped people instead of just enriching them. She found herself. The real version. Not the polished executive or the perfect daughter. Just Victoria. Flawed and fierce and fighting for something worth keeping. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks and struggles. Days when her legs wouldn't cooperate. Days when the business barely broke even. Days when old wounds resurfaced and new challenges emerged. But she wouldn't face them alone. That was the real gift. Not the ability to walk again, though that mattered. Not the successful business, though that helped. Not even her father's belated attempts at redemption, though those counted. The gift was belonging, was being part of something bigger than herself, was having people who stayed when things got hard instead of walking away. Lucy ran inside, covered in snow and triumph. "Come see the dragon! I fixed it!" "Show me," Victoria said. She grabbed her walker and followed Lucy outside. Each step was deliberate and slow. Each step was also a choice to keep moving forward, to keep building, to keep showing up for this messy, complicated, beautiful life. Ryan joined them, and they stood together in the snow admiring Lucy's creation. It looked more like a lumpy horse than a dragon, but Lucy didn't care. It was hers. She'd made it. That was enough. Victoria thought about the woman freezing at that bus stop a year ago, thought about telling her that in 12 months she'd be standing in snow with a family she chose and that chose her back. That woman wouldn't have believed it. But that woman had been wrong about a lot of things. She'd been wrong that disability meant the end of everything, wrong that success could only look one way, wrong that love had to be earned through perfection. Sometimes the best things in life came from falling apart, from losing everything, from being forced to rebuild from scratch without the safety nets and expectations and carefully constructed walls. Sometimes you had to hit bottom to learn how to climb. Victoria looked at Ryan and Lucy and felt something settle in her chest, something that felt like peace, like home. Like finally, after 30 years of running toward the wrong things, she'd found what she'd been looking for all along. Not perfection, not power, not approval, just love. Messy, complicated, unconditional love. And that, it turned out, was more than enough. It was everything.